Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And I think Android is like, I mean, I prefer it, and the Android 12 or Android 13 that they use now is much better flow, and you just have to go to the Play Store rather than the Apple Store. So pretty much the same. Everyone has apps for Android and Apple. So
well, I'm not even going to bother transferring anything. So from my old phone to this new phone, I'm just going to set it up like a new phone, and then just oh wow, it'll do that. Oh wow, it'll do that. You know what I mean? In other words, I'll use it. When I did have the phone new, main thing I used to like of it was the camera. So if that, I would assume camera technology's come a long way and will probably be better than what I've got in this iPhone. Therefore, it'll be better and it'll do stuff. So I'm really pleased. If you vetted it as a good phone as well, all the better.
50 megapixel, I think, that seems to be the standard for Motorola now.
I don't know what that means. I'll let you know. I mean, what do you use? Do you use one of those?
I've got one for when I'm out in the garden and I want to carry on talking to people or listening to something. But most of the time, I've got a 12-inch tablet which I use if I can't be on a PC. Because when you're on YouTube, it's quite hard to find the chat. I find, if you're trying to moderate, but you need a phone or a tablet for moderating YouTube because you can time people out for 86,000 seconds, and that means come back tomorrow, mate.
Yeah,
and I like that.
I like that too because it stops people banning them. Because if you just time them out for 5 minutes, which was the old standard, then 5 minutes later they come back and troll you again. It's like no. I used it yesterday. So that Nick guy, you were there in the chat, weren't you, Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, by the time I've repeated 3 renditions of 2 different rebuttals, so I'm like I normally put like a number of times I've repeated the same rebuttal with X1, well not X1, X2, X3, X4. In other words, I've repeated this same rebuttal to you now 4 times. Now, obviously, you can't type that into chat, but I make a mental note, like I do with the fundies when they come here. I've told you 8 times, I've told you 9 times, I've told you 10 times. I do that in the chat too, just X3. Anyway, by the time I got to X4 with 1 point and X3 with another point, with that Nick guy, I'm like, get lost. If you can't cope with a rebuttal, go away. You can't cope with it. Therefore, you don't belong here. If you can't cope with a rebuttal that admittedly undermines your entire point that you're trying to put across, tough luck. You can't cope. That's not my problem. I'm not a counsellor. So get lost, come back tomorrow. If you can't cope tomorrow, same thing will happen.
Well, that's the high IQ guy, Nick. And he's the same thing. Gas, have and wait.
Yes, that reminds me of the X3 point that I was asking him. What does the gas going up weigh? Downward vector. Again, all of these points get repeated over and over again in a concise rebuttal that's tailored to his question. And when you're repeating the same thing 4 times, you just get lost. What do you offer? Once I give up, you're just going to keep parroting the same thing because essentially you've won. Because you've managed to barrage your way through a rebuttal that you've managed to ignore and keep reasserting the same point. So what does that mean? Because you've barraged your way through it and ignored it, that your point still stands? No, it's been refuted. That's unreasonable. If you've refuted something 3 or 4 times and the person says, regardless of your concise rendition of a rebuttal that demolishes my point still stands. Go away.
I was telling Nathan to 86 him right before times one, because this is the Nicholas Pitts guy. He thinks he's got this high IQ and he has clouds.
I don't really care about their opinions of themselves. It doesn't concern me. Their arguments are what I concern myself with. And by the time I've refuted them, it's like, I'm done now. I mean, it's the same in person, right? That guy that was claiming to be a neurologist, same exact thing. I'm asking him to concede the point so that he doesn't rinse and repeat it later. Now, verbally, they're less inclined to infer that they are definitely going to do that by just doing it the exact same sentence. Verbally, they're, oh, well, let's just move on to a slightly different subject so I can rinse and repeat it in 5 minutes. Having walked past your rebuttal that I didn't acknowledge. I just get a bit tired of it. It's like, I don't really know what to do verbally with that person beyond what I do in the chat. You know, just keep counting off the amount of times they've walked past the rebuttal, ignored the rebuttal, failed to acknowledge the rebuttal, and point out to them, I'm only asking you to do this so you don't use the same point that's been refuted in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, I was talking to Jin about us maybe hopping on 24/7 occasionally. He thought it was a really good idea, so hopefully something will come of it. So
I've actually, with that in mind, because I know I'm going to do restreaming. This is just going to take me a time. I'm sure I did respond to one of your messages and basically just laid it out. Look, I'm scared of doing this. I'm stuck in my ways and it's going to take me a while to massage my way into it. But I'm going to. It's fun. I feel bad saying it because you're doing all this stuff and you're getting it all prepared. And I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. Therefore, I don't want you to feel like you're wasting your time. You're not, but I'd rather just say about my apprehensions up front because then you're like, bloody hell, just get over yourself and get doing it. Is maybe what the nudge I need, but a new phone will help. That's made me really happy. I'm staring at my crappy old phone all day that don't work. I go out with the kids, I put it on charge, and if I take my eldest to a lesson that's about 40 minutes away, by the time I arrive, it's got about 70% battery. And then if I watch, she's there for an hour and a half. If I watch 20 minutes of something with subtitles, because obviously I don't want to disturb the lesson, by the time I leave, it's got 1% battery, and I've got to plug it back in the car in case I break down. So I've got to charge. So to have a phone that doesn't actually require continual non-stop charging will be a delight.
yeah, I find if you turn battery saver on and then put all of the automatic use and charge and stuff on, that works better, and it gets to learn your usage patterns, and it holds the battery life for longer. That's actually quite clever, but I think you have to turn all that on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were saying the other day as well that I assume this is the phone that you were referring to when you were like, well, it's got 22,000 milliamp hours rather than like 1100 in an iPhone.
Yeah, it's 5,000 milliamp hours now in the standard ones.
Is that what this has got? 5,000 milliamp hours?
Yeah.
No way. So it will last 3 days.
Well, yeah, because they use quite a lot of power now, but with the extra processing speed.
Oh,
and
yeah, of course. Yeah. So it'll
So
still
I think
only
3
last a
days
day.
is fair. It just depends how much you're in voice, really, mostly. Well, watching videos, exactly. And I've been trying to figure these things. Really, we just need to be on a call when you're trying to add your channels to Restream, and because you just need to put in your stream key and that. That's pretty much it. But it might help if I was on the call when you're doing it. I probably wouldn't take more than half an hour, I would have thought.
Okay.
Then maybe you could test with a members only live or something and try to just 2 channels and just see how it goes.
Yeah, okay. I'm up for that. I'll set aside a time this week. Not this week, this coming week when we're into the new year. And that'll be the first thing that I'll do, technically. Today, I'm absolutely bloody exhausted because I've done about 700 miles of driving in the last 3 days. Because my folks and my wife's folks live miles away. So my folks are on the south coast, and her folks are on the Welsh border or close to it. So it's just miles and miles and miles of driving. So to spend a couple of hours with parents, you end up on the road for about 6 hours for me yesterday. 3 hours there, 3 hours back, a couple of hours with them. The same the day before on Boxing Day, hence there was no shows. You okay, Neil? Everything okay?
He's pretty dashing, I imagine.
I got a message from you, Divergent Droid, but I didn't know if I was supposed to do anything with it. Via email? He might not be around. He's in the chat, but he might not be his mic. Okay, well, that was my bad, killing the conversation.
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, we're definitely doing this when I get back because I'm going to throw this iPhone across the freaking wall.
Well, don't do that, Neil, because we need the iPhone to talk on while you set up the other one. I found it. You have to dial
Sorry,
start.
I think I'm going to do what Nathan. I think I'm going to do what Nathan did. Just start a whole new phone. Forget about trying to get the old one. Just go get a freaking
SIM caddy.
DoorDash and the show.
Well, for me, Neil, it's just fortunate that I've stopped being dependent on the phone. So, for the sake of argument, it's not a direct replacement for my iPad, which I do 90% of my work, which for most people, maybe some people, they might do on their phone, right, when they're out and about. But yesterday and the day before, I took my iPad with me. So when I need it to be online, I just turn the phone into a hotspot and then Wi-Fi connect to the phone, and then did my publishing, did all the stuff I needed to do for work. Admittedly, while I should be with my family. That's just how it is if you're a YouTuber. Yeah, I've got to publish a show. I've got to keep the money coming in. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to be distracted for a few minutes on my iPad. But if I could do that much more surreptitiously on the phone, well, you did. Just doing a message. Actually, I'm publishing a video. I'm setting the premiere time, deciding what the trailer's going to be. But if you don't know that phone's capable of doing that, you're playing with your phone, aren't you? On an iPad, it's really obvious because they can just look over your shoulder and see what you're doing. What are you doing? Working. What should you be doing? Enjoying your family time. But yeah, phone's much better. Especially if it's capable, and not being an iPhone means that it's far more likely to actually be able to go into a website and edit something usefully on the go. An iPhone is thoroughly useless at that. You can't get into a normal web browser, so you end up, and if you can, it's locked down in an iPhone kind of way, where it just won't let you do certain things. Certain buttons, if you press on them, don't work, like if you were clicking on them. But I would imagine that on an Android phone, that's not a problem because it's basically Google based, isn't it?
Yeah, if I would download Brave and also Carbon browser, and you can press the three dots and go to desktop mode whenever you need to, and then you just see it exactly like you would on your PC, and that's really useful.
Yes, incredibly.
Mobile versions are sometimes good, but then sometimes they don't have the admin features, or at least the look of what you remember and is more familiar.
Yeah, there's a certain order that you can get to certain places in YouTube, and if you haven't got the desktop version, you're like, well, how the hell do I get there through this app? It makes no sense, so there's no route to it. So you end up spending 25 minutes trying to find somewhere. So if you can just go to the desktop, which obviously an Android phone can and an iPhone really can't, as much as they can, oh, you can use the Google app now instead of Safari. Okay, well, that's a massive leap forward when you still can't see it like it looks on your desktop. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Plus, it'd be nice to move away from my phone temporarily. Well, maybe not temporarily. Maybe I'll permanently move away from iPhones. But man,
I understand they have lots of good features, the cameras and stuff early on, and they seem to adopt stuff early when it's new. And also some of the software, I guess, is unique to them. But it also makes it difficult for when you're. I found with Element and Jitsi and other programs, because iPhone really don't want to release any code to anyone, they sort of have to guess and work their way around it. Whereas they obviously can have more in-depth conversations with Google and other people, because the apps for Android tend to be a lot better, I find.
Right.
Because of the intellectual property issue.
I see. Nice looking phone, too.
No, Nathan, sorry, I was getting my mic hooked up. I just wanted to tell you, no, the message you didn't have to do anything with. I was just letting you know about my recent sleeping problems, about what was going on with that. That's all.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, without being rude, I didn't know what to say to it. So I didn't send you any message. I was like, well, I'll say to him the next time I see him. I got your message. I did read it. It was the first thing I read this morning, actually. I just didn't know what to say or do about it, if you know what I mean.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. And I just wanted you to know. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was bits of that message that I could totally relate to. Hey, Righteous, you there?
Yeah.
You have a nice Christmas?
Oh yeah, very relaxing, very peaceful. You?
Good, good.
Okay. Yeah, it was very good. It was nice to have a break. Basically, just like a break from online, if that makes sense, right? So I enjoyed
If
it.
that's what you got, it makes sense. I was just telling Paul about how I had a busman's holiday. Shows are still coming out, right?
How do you take a
Wait, you have
break
what on
from
the
your
holidays that
family?
are still coming out?
Hold on, Neil. Say again, Righteous.
I didn't hear what you last said, Nathan.
I said if that's what you wanted off the break, a separation from the online community and things like that, then if that's what you took from it, then great. I did not.
Well, that was part of the holiday, and it was nice. I welcomed it. Let's say that. Right. Now, Neil, what were you saying?
I said, how do you take a break from your family?
They get flu symptoms. That's how.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then they
only
end up
kidding.
sleeping the whole time.
I would never want to take a break from my family.
Oh, my mom and dad, they had flu symptoms, so they were basically sleeping the whole holidays for the most part. And I don't know, I don't have much family here. I only have my mom, dad, brother, and sister, because I'm from Europe originally, right? So yeah, holidays are simple for me. They're always simple for me as a result. Go on.
When you were growing up, right? How did it work out for you? Because we got a lot of gifts every Christmas. Me and all my brothers, I'd say we got about 20 things each every year. Was it the same in Canada? Because I know my wife came from Guyana. She never seen Christmas like we had. They used to get one or two things, and that was it.
Well, when I was a kid, we got presents. Like I got my favorite things. It was usually video games. That's usually what I liked as a kid, and I got that. So I was very happy at Christmas times.
I got a new phone.
So did I. I felt horrible getting a phone for Christmas.
I didn't feel terrible this morning, or just now actually, when I got this phone. I felt very, very happy.
Well, because it's been a very humble Christmas this year. I mean, it's been the first humble Christmas ever. I
Humble?
couldn't get
What do you mean humble?
as far as being able to provide gifts for my family.
Did you not give him any gifts, you tight git?
Yeah, we did, but like only what I could get. I got no money. It's not a joke. I got freaking nothing.
You still got something though, right? It's about the sentiment, not about the dollar value of the gift. Did you not get them anything?
Yes.
Then that would be bad. If you got them something, then
Yes, of course. But not what they're used to. That's all I'm trying to say.
fair enough. Were they happy?
Of course they are. The parents always, like my wife. I said, you're not getting it. It's gonna bother you. They're happy. They're fine.
Right. I know what you're getting at. Having a humble life in general was something that I made a choice to do, 8 years ago, 9 years ago? Went from being a rep, earning really good money, driving really fast cars, living up to my parents' expectations, all those sorts of things, to this, scraping by. Wife working part-time and educating the kids at home. Much, much, much more humble. One was like, what do you want for Christmas? I was like, a real rear tail light illuminator, because that's broken on the Audi. That's what I want for Christmas. She's like, how much is it? 25 quid. Yes, please. Really? Yeah, that's what I want. Because it's stressing me out that the tail lights, the rear, whatever, we call it a registration plate, but just the little light that lights it up, one of them's dangling down. It's like the clip's broken on it. Yeah, when I was a kid.
I got it.
You want the new Nintendo, don't you? You want the 200 quid console, or you want the whatever it is that's current for kids. Presumably a PlayStation 5 is what they asked for, right? What most kids ask for. What do you want? PlayStation.
What I'd ask for.
What I'd ask for if I was a kid.
Yeah, but that's like $600.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Most kids aren't getting a PlayStation for Christmas. But, if one year they happen to have got, I don't know, a PlayStation that was an older generation that you could afford because you were earning good money at the time, that sets an expectation, is what you're saying. So this year, when it's like, no, you're not going to get a PlayStation this year. What you'll get is a couple of CDs, some socks, a scarf, maybe some clothes. You need some new trainers. And bloody hell, that whole lot cost $200. Best be grateful. Right, Neil?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so don't feel guilty. Sometimes you're poor, sometimes you're not. But the fact that you do worry about it means that you have gone to the effort and you have gotten some presents because you're worried about it. So I can't say don't worry about it, because the fact that you do means you're concerned about it enough to make sure that your family are happy. And by the sounds of things, you've done a good job. If your wife's telling you they're all happy, well, this is the point you stop stressing. Breaking up. Sort that new phone out. Of course, that's killed the conversation now.
How many emails do you get, Nathan? I always wondered, because your email address is public.
Oh, thousands. Do you want to know what my inbox currently stands at? It doesn't actually tell me. It limits me on the iPad for how many emails. Currently on the iPad alone, it's got 18,000.
Wow.
Overall, there's probably in excess of 200,000 in the account. Unread.
You're beating Neil there on his Google Mail, and I thought that was impressive.
Yeah. But like I say, it's public. It has been since day one. So that email address has always been used for that purpose. So originally, Nathan Oakley 1980 was my AOL instant messaging name. And if you know anything about AOL from the past, at AOL.com was just what you added onto a screen name to get you to their email address. That's how it worked. So obviously, if you're going to go onto an instant messenger, you're acutely aware that publicly makes your email address available to all who can see you in that chat room. So from that day to this,
Yeah,
it's like,
we had FreeServe as our first email, and then it changed to Wanna-Do, and then it got bought by someone else, and it just keeps changing. But AOL ones seem to stay, don't they? I don't know how you access them, because I'm not sure you can still get AOL in the UK, can you?
no, you'd have to be, previously using it because it was a paid service. So to have their email address, you'd have to constantly pay for it. Now it reached a point where obviously email addresses came so prevalent and free that they just allowed you to have them for free, and then the subscription base of it stopped. But you got to keep various facilities that AOL provided. It's just Time Warner, right? AOL, or it used to be back in the day. It's a massive, massive, massive company. But yeah, they don't provide online services like they used to. Back in the day when you were talking about FreeSurf, I used to be giving those out. So one of my first, not my first job, but one of my first jobs was in a retail outlet that's now defunct in the UK called Dixon's. We still have Curry's, which was like the sister company. But yeah, that's what I was giving out to people. You should give them out at Dixon's, right? That's where you'd have got it because it was the only place you could get it. You'd have walked into Dixon's and gone, I want to go onto the internet, please. Here's this free CD. Off you go.
Yeah, Dixon's was always better until they got bought by the Curry's PC World people, and then they became exactly the same.
Yeah. Oh, was it about before Curry's had it then? I didn't know that. I thought it was theirs.
Yeah, I think it was like like Tesco's or anything else. They started adding more and more shops, and then eventually they get big enough to go public, and then they private capital gets involved, then, don't they?
Right. Yeah, I've got a very consistent online history, and I like to think it keeps me honest. Or that's the story I tell people based on how that came to pass when Ralph came round and set up a computer that I had. So my folks, when they retired from a computer shop, gave me a very highly spec computer, which I wasn't interested in. If I had been interested in it, I'd have taken ownership of their business. And likewise, my brother and my sister didn't want it either, because we all hated computers at that particular point in our lives. So I got this high-end computer, stuffed it in the computer, and then started working at that particular time at a hi-fi shop. And one of the employees was very into computers, started talking about them, and me, nonchalant because I didn't like them, I've kind of huffed my way through saying, yeah, I've got a computer. And he's like, well, what spec is it? And I told him, and he's like, my God, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, my parents used to own a computer shop. They just gave it me. He's like, well, what do you play on it? I was like, it's not even wired up. The guy nearly choked. He couldn't quite believe it. Because obviously, I have no idea how much that computer was worth. But at the time, it would have just been the best computer you could buy because that's what they sold. And they just gave me one. But like I say, not liking computers, it didn't get used. But to him, it was like an absolute travesty. So he came round, wired it up, and installed AOL. And the first thing he did was go into people's, with his account, because he'd already got his set up, he'd go into people's accounts on instant messaging, see if they were online, and just start instant messaging them, like whatever they call them now, PMs, private messages, instant messages, the same thing. Anyway, and first thing he'd do, what are you wearing? To a female instant message user. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, oh, well, they don't know who I am. I'm like, but they've got your email address. Yeah, it doesn't tell anything about me. It doesn't mean anything. You can get away with murder. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I would rather the persona I have here in this chat box that you're showing me is exactly the same as the persona that you'd get if you met me in person. He's like, well, why? I'm like, well, because what you're showing me is this is a means of meeting women. And I want to meet women because I was at that point in my life. Now, at that point, there was to catch a predator. And if you were online meeting people full stop, you were grooming kids. That was the perception of the public at the time, if you were meeting people online. Now, for me, it wasn't like that at all. It's like, well, people are people. They're online. And I can meet them online. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get to meet them in person. And I did. Lots and lots and lots of people. In fact, that was that was a great little niche because there was hardly anybody doing it. So it was far easier to go and actually socialise with people, especially if you were honest. So if you had your full name, my date of birth, in this case 1980, as your screen name, at least it lent some semblance of this is actually a real person I'm talking to, and I wanted to maintain that so that I could go out and meet girls, basically. So I've kept that idea going for a long time. So it kind of grieves me when people pretend that, well, you're just putting on an act. You're like, yeah, you do have an online persona, but that's the same as saying you're putting on an act when you're out at a party and you're socializing with people that you've maybe known for a while in some instances, but have never met before in some others. And you kind of behave how you best see fit in that moment. And your wife might turn around to you after the fact and go, that's really not how you behave, though, is it? And you're like, well, no, that's how I behave socially. And you're like, okay, so you are putting on a persona that's not 100% like you're relaxed. And you're like, no, you get that because you're my wife. But you're going to behave in a certain way. It doesn't mean it's not you. And likewise, how I behave online is my online persona. It doesn't mean it's not me, though. However, for others, it is a very different part of their personality, and I'm phrasing that carefully. They perceive it to be some throwaway, random troll account, as we now experience it in current present tense, that it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter. There's no consequences. It's like, yeah, there is. Now, even back when I had Ralph in this particular flat right now, I'm still in the same place, showing me how to do this, his perception was exactly that. It doesn't matter. There's no online footprint. Instant messages disappear immediately as soon as you get rid of them. It does not matter. And I was like, I don't know. I've worked with computers long enough to know I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that what you perceive to be a footprint-free trail that's not being left, I think you're wrong. And if I adhere to the idea that I wouldn't want to do anything online that I wouldn't do in real life, in other words, adhere to the same moral standards, then you're not going to go far wrong. Yeah? In other words, I can push, like now and future, this is obviously 20 years later, but I can push the limits of humour, for example. Now, if I pick something that's close to the censor line, let's just say, with something like racism, I can push that line a little bit further because I know that I would get away with it in a societal context, full stop. And if you can get away with something in a societal context, you'll get away with it. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter if it's published online, in print, verbally, next to a man next to you. If you just behave to a standard that you think is reasonable, that may occasionally push the boundaries a little bit, you're never going to step over them just because you've got a faceless troll account that you think you can get away with murder with, if that makes sense. But many people do. Many people think, I can behave like this. Now, what those people who take the anonymity of online and what it has to offer to those extremes, what they don't appreciate is that is still you. That is just your online persona. Your online persona is a scumbag. But deep down inside you is a scumbag. Because you are a scumbag. It doesn't matter that you haven't got your name attached to it, therefore you don't see any credibility issues. It doesn't change what you are and what you're doing. You're a scumbag. I would prefer not to be a scumbag. Therefore, if my name is attached to it mentally in the same way a guy would say it doesn't matter if my name is not attached to it, the reverse psychology of that as well, if I say my name is attached to it, therefore it does matter, that in a way keeps me honest. I know that's a long, convoluted explanation for why I've still got the same email address, Paul. But there we go. That's my explanation.
Yep, fair enough. 18,000, you say? Wow. I wonder if you'll ever read any of them.
I do thumb through them all the time. Like I say, I saw Divergent
One of
Droids
them
message.
is an invite to my restream, so you just need to search for restream and then click the link and make an account, and then you can add your own channels because you'll be an administrator then.
Oh, sorry, I should have made clear. That's 18,000 visible now in my inbox emails, as opposed to spam and filtered. That number on my iPad would be closer to 100,000, and the number on my account would probably be closer to 1 million if you included all spam. Because those unread emails, the list is, it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, probably half of them are probably from Ruhif.
Possibly. I'm sure people do email me all the time. But there are certain people, I still scroll through a vast number of them because I still appreciate that there's going to be people, because it's public, that do actually want to get in touch with me via there. So I'll scan through all the penis enlargement, whack my mic, sorry, all the penis enlargement emails and scam baiting emails and you've got a parcel emails and just scam after scam after scam after scam. I'll scroll through all of that to see if there is actually something relevant. And if I do spot it, like you're saying, oh, you didn't see mine, my bad, because I will have attempted to look every single day. I do check my email every single day. It's the first thing I do, along with messages on YouTube. So literally, I open my eyes and I'll go to my iPad while I'm half awake, and I'll go through and see if there's any relevant emails that I need to address. And then I'll go through the messages as I'm waking up. Normally, so I can forget about them. It's like by the time you're actually awake, you've forgotten all the disdain that you might have received in some of the YouTube comments if you put something out that's good. Weird how that works. You put something out that's good, receive a lot of disdain in the comments. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Had a nice Christmas?
Yeah, not bad. You?
A lot of driving.
I won at chess, Nathan.
I saw your message.
I was shitting it, mate. I was thinking, oh dear. Yeah, nobbled his queen early on. Did for him.
My dad's getting really old, so because he came over to my sister's house. So typically, and I said, "Oh, my daughter played chess with him last year," which she did. This year he wasn't capable of it. He was so knackered by the time he'd walked to the car, walked into my sister's house, sat down. There wasn't a time for chess, so it's like it wasn't that moment. So I think because he's getting really, really old, that might be the last time, which is sweet in a way. I'm glad I've got that memory of her playing chess with him, but I don't think it'll happen again. Not moreover that we don't hardly ever go down there because it's such a massive journey.
A nice family Christmas though. Brilliant. Always the way.
Well, that's the thing with the chess. Back to that. Cognitively, your offspring will evolve beyond you at a certain point, right? And as you mature or get old, basically, I don't know how to politely put that, they're going to be strengthening cognitively. So while you think, oh, well, you've got to kind of let them win or whatever, there'll never be that point with you and your son that likes playing chess with you, or if it's both. But you will always play to win with them, but there will still come a point in your life where they beat you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's coming. It's coming. I was very lucky. He made one mistake and that was it.
It wasn't a mistake. Yeah, but that wasn't a mistake. Did he say after it was actually a mistake?
Yeah, he went, oh shit, I just didn't see that.
That's not a mistake then, is it? No, that's not a mistake.
As far as he's claiming, mate, against his dad, yeah. It was...
No, but I'm driving at.
Yeah.
I didn't see that isn't a mistake.
No.
I see a mistake as, right, I can see that if I go there, that'll get taken. And if I go there, that will be taken, but it's less consequential. I'll go with that. Oh, actually, it turned out that was more consequential. Therefore, that was a mistake because I should have gone with the other option. But just going, I didn't see that coming isn't a mistake as far as I'm concerned. You haven't made the wrong move based on a choice that you made.
I think he didn't see his queen was under threat, daft lad. Because I got him all ends up with choices and he was too focused on not losing his knight.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not a mistake. Leaving your queen exposed, that's poor play, but that's cognitively because you're better than him. Right?
Yeah. I gave him a step over as well. Sent him the wrong way and then into checkmate. Good game.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear it.
He liked a nice little set as well. That it was nice. He's chuffed with that, so that's nice. He's got a nice little set for him now. Nice little metal Manapoulis or something. One of these nice Greek ones. So that's been for the rest of his life. I bought my other son a really, really nice Bible. He's right into reading his Bible, and he's done it on his own. He's not been prompted from me. So he got a really nice Bible instead of a chess set.
Awesome.
Adam, that's funny you should say that because my little guy, my wife's mother got my two older ones Bibles with their names engraved on it, but she passed away before she got the little guy one. So that's one of the gifts my wife got my son, and he's only 13. So the other night we were talking at the table, and my son brings up the Pharisees or something. So I said, well, what did John the Baptist say to the Pharisees? And without blinking an eye, my son, as he was eating, didn't even look up. He just said he called them a bunch of vipers. I was so impressed. I was like, wow, Jude, coming from left field. Just warmed my heart. But he's into reading the Bible on his own.
Ah, nice. Very good.
Called them a bunch of vipers. Had to be there. It was classic. He didn't even look at anybody either.
I got a new controller, new game controller. So
Yeah, he got that too.
my wife spreads out Christmas presents over the whole year, and about, I don't know, 3 months ago, I started moaning about you get this thing called stick drift when your controllers get old. They just start to stick in a position, and you're not doing anything, your character will walk around on screen because your stick's in the wrong position. Anyway, it started doing that because it's old and worn out and it gets dropped by the kids all the time. So I started moaning. And what she did was she went onto the Microsoft site and went onto the configurator and ordered a custom controller. And she explained that it was about 10 quid more than a normal one. Now, when I opened it on Christmas Day, it was obvious that what someone had done is they'd got one off the shelf in China and just taken it apart and changed some of the components on it and then put it back in the box, put a little bit of sticky tape on it, and then sent it in the post. So it come direct from China. So like, okay, so fine. It's been manufactured in a custom way, but then put back into the same box for about 10 quid more. Fine. It's got yellow buttons and stuff. She then was on one of the websites getting closer to Christmas, and they've taken the exact same idea, which is an Xbox controller with custom buttons, and basically doubled the price. And I said to her, all they'll have done is they'll have decided that it looks a bit crap coming in the original box, put it in a really glitzy box, written the word custom all over it, and then charged over £100. So this was, I think the one that she's got me was about 60 quid, where they're normally about 50 quid with just black buttons. Whereas now they're like over £100 for a custom one leading up to Christmas. Presumably, like I say, just for a load of packaging waste, because it came in a really basic box. But the end product, the thing you hold, is no different, regardless of how many custom changes you made to it. But like I say, for 100 quid, the configurator now, kids will be receiving a custom controller that's cost their folks over 100 quid just because it was leading up to Christmas and lots of people are going to want controllers. So, yeah, 100 quid for one if you want brown buttons rather than black or whatever colour you
Did
go
you
for.
say your wife, throughout the year, she got gifts? Because that's what my wife did.
Yeah,
and that's why they have to do things.
Yeah,
Very smart.
yeah, she'll buy things when she's got money or when she sees the thing cheap. So in this instance, as soon as I've mentioned something that I want, which I actually, want because it's something I take pleasure in playing games, she's made a note of it and then gone out and got one of my kids to configure it on the online configurator. And you're like, okay, cool. But that's resulted in her getting it relatively cheap compared to what it would have cost if come Christmas she asked me, what do you want for Christmas? Oh, well, I'd like a new controller. This one's broken. Yeah, well, then that's going to be off the list because it's over 100 quid. Anyway.
Very organised. I
Space
had to rush it last week.
Yeah, that's my part in it. I go down to the pound shop and buy a whole massive sack full of little presents, like stocking fillers. That's all I do. Whereas throughout the year, the wife will stack up presents and hide them places.
The stocking fillers is usually edibles. And like a gift card.
Like a hash cookie.
What's that?
I was thinking the same thing, Adam. Edibles.
Edibles normally is a reference to like gummy bears with cannabis in them, Neil. I think that's what they're talking about.
Oh. No.
Not appropriate, Neil.
My sister-in-law, I'll tell you, my brother had given her a piece, and oh my God, because she never did anything in her life. I don't even think she drank. Maybe Moscato, I think she likes. That sweet stuff. But holy shoot, she was in rare form. One of them gummies. Not even a lot. I think she took a little piece.
Anyway, can we change the subject?
Yeah, we can.
Stocking
Otherwise,
fillers
Nathan will
here
have to pick a
are
box or something.
cheap toys. So whereas, like we discussed earlier, from the ideal 10 out of 10 present that every kid wants at Christmas, which is obviously one of those Diablo things with 2 sticks. No, I mean a PlayStation, right? Every kid wants a PlayStation. Okay, so that's number 1 at the list. At the bottom of the list is bulk, just things to unwrap. Yeah? So it doesn't matter if it's at the bottom of the stocking an orange that's wrapped up. It's like the $1.99 Nerf gun. Yeah? Water pistol. Juggling set. Colouring book. Those are stocking fillers.
So Nathan, there was this sportscaster, and he said, I think in England they have this Boxing Day, and what it is you whatever stuff didn't fit or you don't like, you bring it back to the store.
No.
Somebody's got to straighten him out.
Adam tends to be the expert on these things.
But Boxing Day now is kind of that, isn't it? It's the day you take the things back. It used to be the sales day. Now the thing, if you got your receipts, take it back and get something you actually wanted. But Boxing Day is the origination of Christmas presents. So
Yes, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, so it's the Feast of St. Stephen, and it would be traditional to present a gift if you went around somebody's house, and just a small gift in a box. So then it became Boxing Day, and then gifts became more and more popular, and then you start to get presents on Christmas Day as well. But Boxing Day still remains. And I think I heard something the other day, Nathan, on the radio. I think there's only 6 countries that celebrate Boxing Day. So
really?
Britain, Australia, South
Canada.
Africa, yeah, Canada, mostly Commonwealth things. So it is a Victorian British tradition.
So the English are to blame for this. This constant during Christmas stressing out getting gifts. It's all your fault. Figures.
Well, as Adam just pointed out, it's gifts for the less fortunate.
Yeah, well, it morphed into what it is now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but it's the surplus. So, you take your surplus. So, for us, Boxing Day is quite literally where we, my wife and I, would go to our folks, and what they would do is all of the stuff that's been munched over Christmas and buffets and stuff gets sort of cellophaned up and given to us. But that's the metaphorical equivalent. So you've done all your feasting over the Christmas period. That's Christmas and Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But then the day after, Boxing Day, is where you go, oh, have all this spare food. You see what I mean?
Yeah, my brother-in-law's gone back with so much.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So it's we'll do the same when our kids are grown up. You want to know that they're well fed. Here, make sure you go home and your cupboards are full. But back when it was St. Stephen's Day, like I say, it would be the same sort of idea. It's giving the surplus, but to those less fortunate. But in this scenario, it's me that's less fortunate than the mother-in-law or whatever, in that particular setting. Which is still true.
We had to rescue Christmas for next door. Like, they got 2 kids, probably yours ages, I think, like 5 and 7, something like that. And Katrina forgot to buy the Christmas crackers. They were actually tears, and she's like, "You ain't got any spare." Luckily, they come in 6s, and there was 8 at our table. There was 4 spare, so they literally just had out 4 spare crackers. So Christmas was saved for the kids. It was like they got PlayStation and things like this, and they're absolutely gutted that they haven't got a paper hat.
It's
Yeah.
like that when you're a kid, though, isn't it? There's certain things that represent the day and what the expectations are, and crackers are amongst that.
Yeah.
It's like mint sauce. Mint sauce isn't typically or traditionally served with turkey. I like mint sauce. If there's a Christmas day without it, I'm a bit gutted because I like it on my peas. Well, it's the smallest of things that can annoy you when you're a kid.
Yeah, what do Americans call crackers? Because I don't think they use that term.
Racist.
Yeah, we got crackers.
No, Christmas crackers now. What do you call them?
Yeah, you're talking about the ones that you pop them open and they got gifts
Yeah.
Yeah.
inside them. Yeah, we got them. We usually do it on New Year's Eve.
Oh wow. No, they're traditionally here over Christmas lunch or Christmas dinner, and prior to the serving of any food, everyone pulls a cracker. And it's got a crap present, a joke, and a hat, and you put the hat on so that everyone's got a hat on. So if you ever see a Christmas dinner photograph from England, everyone will have paper hats on.
Yep. For at least 10 minutes before they rip on your head.
Yes, exactly,
forget
or
it's
fall
there.
into your gravy. But they've traditionally got a terrible joke in them. And the more terrible the joke, the better. For example, what do you call a snowman in summer?
Puddle.
Perfect. You had that in your cracker too.
Of previous years, definitely. Yeah. I must say bad. I can't even remember him.
Yeah, the worse the joke, the better.
Oh, they're meant to be bad. You don't want anything actually funny.
You don't want them to be funny. No.
No.
That is
You
the
need to
irony
grow.
of UK humour.
Yeah.
That
They
most
should be
assuredly
followed
was
with a
not
groan,
funny.
shouldn't they?
How
Ugh.
amusing that it was not funny.
Yeah. Let's have a look then, Paul.
You've still got your notifications on after all these years of being on a live show, Adam. Don't you know how to turn them off?
Did you have a look?
I heard the bloop, bloop.
I don't normally have any notifications on anywhere, so I don't know why that's.
If you start using a new browser, they're all on as default. It's annoying. Or if you have to wipe your history because of a fault or something, that turns them back on when you log back in.
What beats his chest and swings from Christmas cake to Christmas cake?
I don't know.
Tarzipan.
That is terrible.
There's Nathan's one. What's called an old snowman water. What do you call a penguin in the Sahara Desert?
I don't know.
Lost. Right, enough for that.
Yeah, 3 is enough, really, isn't it?
Oh, I've got to stop reading them. Get rid of that webpage.
I was thinking from a history program, I think maybe Queen Victoria and her family made it more of the modern thing it is today, Boxing Day, until it changed to it being mostly Christmas Day. Because I know people who've always given presents to each other on Christmas Eve as a tradition.
As do the royal family. Yeah, they're all basically German, so they do the European tradition, and Christmas presents in Europe are traditionally opened on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, on both sides, because Prince Philip is half Greek, half German, isn't he? And they're both from the Saxony area of Germany, both sides of the family.
Right. So therefore their tradition would be European in nature, and therefore they open their Christmas presents of the royal family in England on Christmas Eve. Not a lot of people know that.
I'm going to use that against one of the girls. She does all that Christmas Eve and her Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, legally here it's still a retail day, isn't it? Nuts.
Yeah. Oh, we have to
Maybe you
work.
end up having 3 Sunday roasts if you do Christmas Eve as well.
Oh.
That's just too much. 2's enough.
Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, South Africa, as well as the UK.
It's Boxing Day.
Hmm.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so us and
No.
the colonies then.
It's 2 days ago now, isn't it, Boxing Day?
Hold on a second. My wife said in Guyana they still celebrate Boxing Day. Yeah.
It was one of the colonies still,
Yeah.
technically. Well, the English bit is anyway. There's still a French bit, isn't there? Or at least French speaking.
English. But they celebrate it. Probably Trinidad does too.
Just seem to be just Commonwealth countries. Guyana would be the same, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe Belize, the Pitcairn Islands, Bermuda, it goes on.
Falkland.
Yep. Gibraltar, until they give it back to the Spanish.
It's never going back, mate.
Well, it's on the cards now, apparently, with the new guy.
Well, now we're out of Europe, pal. They can clear off.
That's on the table, apparently. I don't really care, but...
It's up to the Gibraltars, isn't it? Technically.
Oh, yeah, well, I would have thought so, yeah. They'd have to secede from whatever deal they have with us, I guess, if that's on the table. If it's a serious thing. You know, it's about negotiations back into the EU, I imagine, you know, with trade because of customs problems. They're trying to agree something new, and apparently Gibraltar's on the table.
No problem for us. It's only a problem for Europe. It's a bargaining chip for us. So, well, no, we're happy. We've got our own port here. Do what we want.
It's more about things coming in from abroad, you know, with the import tax and that. It's not as good as it was. You know, there was no reason to put up the barriers there, but that was a choice that both sides made. So, good afternoon.
Happy New Year!
Morning.
Happy New
Afternoon,
Year, happy
everyone.
Christmas, depending on when you're watching this. If you're watching it live, it's not quite New Year yet, but there we go. Got Arwin joining us as well. We'll say a big warm welcome to Arwin. Hello, Arwin. How you doing? Good to have you.
Fair enough.
Nathan. Yeah, no, hello. That was actually me.
Hello, good to see you. Hello, Arthur, as well.
It's just every time somebody doesn't respond to you, and you do the little voice like they're imitating them. When I like to do your little voice in imitating me.
No, he doesn't. Nathan's always ace. I agree. Nathan is fantastic.
Exactly.
Anyway, right, let's do a bit of housekeeping as we've got a few people lined up. And if you're in the Discord server, welcome, of course. Please feel free to join in if you want to. And as I say in every single introduction, if you want to join the show, there's a link in the info box. You can just get your way into the old Discord server. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Okay. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
The boat was on land. Never gonna let that one go.
It would have worked in 2017, though, wouldn't it? Let's be honest.
Oh, to him, it still works.
I've been listening to Brian's. I've been listening to many Brian's videos. Brian drops it in, and he's just. I'm over OTT when I come to taking the mickey out of Ruhif, and how's that geometric horizon working out for you? Ruhif is my over-the-top way of drawing attention to that. But when Brian does it in his videos, he just does it quite subtly. Well, you know, Ruhif thinks he's got a geometric horizon that he can appeal to. He often refers to this things like that. He's just a lot more subtle about it, and I can imagine that little twist of the knife from Brian is a lot more painful than my over-the-top drawing attention. I don't know. Maybe I don't know Ruhif well enough to know what he'd take personally. If you're new to the show, this is a long-standing former participant with the show. Glenn would come on to the show and debate when we were already losing, because we still begged the question of the proof of nothing Earth curve calculator alongside our globe Earth counterparts, one of which was Glenn Williamson or Ruhif. Anyway, he still appeals after the Black Swan being 4 years old to a geometric horizon he no longer has, which is amusing to me, and also amusing when I hear Brian subtly alluding to that fact in his videos.
It's a question that's changed now. It used to be a thing of frustration. I'm waiting, wanting them to allude that the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. It's a please confirm that thing that I seek for them to affirm before I destroy them with the Black Swan. Used to be like I say, before the Black Swan, it was a point of contention, but now it's like I say, it's a point of affirmation. I want them to confirm that for me, so I can move forward with a militarized Black Swan.
Well, the same applies, and I want this to be weaponized by the people who are watching it that do go out into debate. So if you're just a casual watcher, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're at the tip of the spear, you're here and you're debating out on the circuit and you want to know how the best argumentation moves forward, Adam's sentiment in that regard is true for you're going to need a flat earth for that, which is to say that I now find myself waiting for them to make a positive claim so I can use their positive claim to affirm a flat earth with it. So at the moment, measured flat earth, hashtag earth is measured flat. Now, we don't have to go far to give you an example of earth being measured flat, built on flat, navigated flat, the maps being developed from the stars over a flat plane. These are all flat earth measurements that are easy to allude to, but I actually prefer not to, as much as my sentiment to the audience going forward is reassert over and over again that you're going to need a flat earth. But for what? Well, for their claim in this instance. Let them make their claim. Well, define measurement for me. Well, you give me a globe claim and I'll make damn sure you know how Earth's measured flat for it.
Oh, Nathan, have you heard? There's in the news again. A new Black Swan event is about to arrive in 2024.
I will assume this has nothing directly relatable to the nature of Earth, flat Earth debate or anything that we discuss as a Black Swan. It's a generic term. It's Karl Popper, but go on. What's the current Black Swan?
No, it's not the Karl Popper analogy.
I know, it won't be, I know, but what is the current, this is a Black Swan moment, like we've referred to as, it's utilising and affirming. Just tell me what it is.
No, it's supposedly another looming banking crisis of that thing that's everybody knows pretty much. Like, yeah, this should really collapse soon. But they're saying it again. It's always funny every time they now bring up the Black Swan. It's just like, yeah, Black Swan, just like 2020, right?
I did see that as a coincidence. I mean, at any given time, there's a reasonable chance that somebody somewhere is going to be using a Karl Popper analogy or has done in the recent past, right? So I don't know. It's a good analogy to use Karl Popper when you say all swans are white, by example, and you only need one black swan to show that that isn't the case. That can apply to quite a number of circumstances. I know it's twice now that it's been banking when we happen to also be using a Karl Popper example with our black swan. You know, if the Earth's a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon can be measured no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and then the distance to the horizon is shown beyond that. Therefore, the distance being beyond that is our black swan.
Right, but the funny thing is that I don't think they're actually using the Karl Popper analogy in any sort of form. Because what they say, the Black Swan event, what that supposedly means is a completely out of nowhere, you can't predict it exactly when it's coming, unexpected turn of events. That's what they call a Black Swan. So it doesn't even sound like it's a Karl Popper analogy. It's still called the Black Swan, though. But that's what they're using right now. And that's what they used in 2022.
Maybe someone somewhere... Maybe someone somewhere is utilising the Karl Popper analogy of everybody in this particular banking circumstance, thinks everything is set in this particular way, then it only takes one person to come along and show that that isn't the case, for everything around you to be changing. Well, for us, our Black Swan moment is radically changing the way of the world because of a realisation that you haven't got a hill called Earth curve anymore. And that's been the case now for 4 years. But for banking, I don't know, lots of people are always going to use Black Swans.
This is what I
Yes,
thought.
it's a popular thing, but like the original one, they don't ever mention like, oh, the Karl Popper analogy like you do.
Well, no,
I-
no.
I-
But the thing that was relevant or pertinent last time was there was, I distinctly remember because you went and got it, Arwin, a cartoon that had a globe riding the back of a swan over a waterfall.
Yeah, I'll show it.
Right, this is 5 years ago. This is pre-COVID. It's a long time ago. It's about, how many years ago would this be now?
About 2020. This is exactly 2020, all at the same time.
Okay, so it's 4 years ago.
I just think that's coincidence.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's, I say, when we say black swan, it's shorthand for explaining the logic of being able to present a black swan if you make a statement that all swans are white. It's just the logic that you're applying, and the analogy that you then draw it to whatever, be it banking or exactly or flat earth. It doesn't really matter. The black swan is just describing the application of the logic to the statement you're challenging.
If P then Q, not Q, therefore not P. So if Earth is a sphere radius 3959, that's your P statement. And then your Q statement is every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's the limitation laid down in the Earth curve mathematics. It's their physical Earth curve hill that they claim blocks boats and buildings. That's their claim. Well, if it's the case, then that's the limitation to your claim. And then you say not Q. The distance to the horizon in what we call the black swan is beyond that limitation. Therefore, not P. Earth's not a sphere radius 3959. The horizon is not a limitation to your view called Earth curve. So it's Karl Popper's if P then Q, not Q, therefore not P, that you're actually saying if you shorthand this, as Adam's just pointed out, to infer the logic behind it. Now, we don't often... QE does it every time. Every time you see a QE presentation on the Black Swan, it will be second to none, because it will highlight if P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. And that is formulated then into the Black Swan as I've just done it. We don't often do that, do we? We will lay out the Black Swan in its full logistics statement. If the Earth is a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to the horizon in the Black Swan is beyond 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth's not a sphere and the horizon's not an Earth curve. You'll hear that from someone who's got a good understanding of the argument, but they won't give it you in if P, then Q, if Earth curve, then distance to hill. Not Q. It's not the distance to that hill you said Earth curve was. Therefore, Earth not got hill-based horizons and not a sphere, because that's your proof it's a sphere. That's how it breaks down into the logic, right, Adam?
To me, yeah. I'm looking at this one on screen, Owen, and this relates, obviously, to me. Look, the Black Swan event here is ordinarily this. You can't escape the lake of death. The world can't escape the lake of death. However, if it rides on a black swan of coronal fear, then it can escape the lake of death. So he changes the rules. It's the Black Swan event for how to get out of debt. You can't. There's no way out. All swans are white, except we've now got a coronal fear Black Swan. Black Swan event here being that debt could be escaped, which is a hidden rule that you can't escape debt. That's how what keeps their world together, doesn't it? Controlled together. Yeah.
Well, all I'm mostly seeing here is a globe being terrified for being discovered for what it is. It's like he's about to like have his feet dipped into the burning lake, but like a black swan is like, oh no, something really big to distract you from hell. I'm gonna pull you through this river of fire. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay, well, there's a certain group of people that have an idea or a notion of how the world behaves, and they describe it with this term called sync. So if you're a JLB fan, you may have heard this term bandied around. I was actually watching JLB yesterday as we're talking about this, right? he infers that there's no such thing as coincidences when you're describing sync. Now, whether or not I buy into this is irrelevant. It's just a point of view based on a good understanding of certain philosophies. Fine. I'm not going to debate whether or not it's worthy of your time or true. I'm just saying, when you put these things to direct coincidences, there is no artist that's going to be taking our notions of global black swans with BLMSB 69's distance to horizon with a calculation and a formulation within the Karl Popper logic, and then put a globe on the black swan flowing down a lava tube because we are talking about it and there's a global economic crisis, and in this instance, 3-4 years ago, COVID. That's just a coincidence. These two events both happen to reference black swan, coinciding with one another. Both events are describing what we say Earth's a globe. This doesn't make sense based on what I'm hoping we'll move forward with in 2024, that Earth's flat. And then why would we be talking about a globe anything unless it's being put to us by an opponent who's got a fundy belief? So therefore, this having a globe on it, well, how's that relevant to us now that we're moving into 2024? Go on, Owen.
It was relevant to me because all this stuff started rolling out like 2 days before we just stumbled upon the Karl Popper analogy. QE brought it on the table. And we just had it we got this new amazing item. And guess what? 2 days later, this stuff came out. They started to talk about it in media everywhere. Right after we had discovered that, not the other way around. That's what was so amazing about it then.
Now, I do remember it was like
wrong about that.
it was 1st Jan 2020, and then immediately after it had been released, discussed prior, and we had all got a glimpse of what was to come prior to the 1st of January 2020, which is when the Black Swan first got aired to a public audience. Then this came out literally a couple of days later, and you're like, well, in terms of the timeline, there's no questioning that this has followed us doing this. Doesn't mean anything though, does it? I'm with Adam.
Let me put up a real black swan, Arwen. This is the one I thought you was talking about, just to bring it back to Flat Earth. So this was aired over Christmas by Ben Taboo Conspiracy. This is J. Tolan Media's work. You can see here.
Hold on, stop. Proper plug for both of them, please.
Okay, so this is a analysis from Ben Taboo Conspiracy. Subscribe today. It's there at Taboo Conspiracy. He's done the analysis on this and points out that this is a black swan, and the original.
Go on. I'm really sorry to break up
is by J. Tolan Media.
Just one sec. Okay, if one of my mods, I really would appreciate if you can just spam J. Tolan Media's channel.
I'll do it now.
No, you're doing something. I know you're doing something. One of the mods hopefully will do it on your behalf so it doesn't break up your flow like I'm already doing. But carry on, Adam.
Okay, yeah. So this is then the work from J. Tolan Media. What he's flying across the States a lot, and he's using his infrared camera here. So we're looking across, and you see the distances more. The thing I'd point out, you can see a horizon in the background. There's a lot of distance in the background. You've got your oil rigs, your markers, your distance markers here. Look, we've got Bold Mountain East, Flat Top Mountain, Low Peak. What's amazing on this is look how the flat Earth continues into the distance, so that behind these low peaks, flat top, you can actually make out the Great Salt Lake. Okay, it's not at sea level, but look, yeah, you can see that behind the mountain, and then the land's continuing. And maybe you want to draw an arbitrary line to call it a horizon, and you can see that there. You can see sort of demarcation of sky and land, which is to me the definition. So we've got the horizon in the background, and I think we've got the most amazing black swan at these distances.
Very cool.
Ben does invoke a bit of Earth curve calculator refracted, just to kind of show the impossibilities. But to me, you don't need to look at what you're being shown there. Yeah, it's measured. And then the point of this, look, this is infrared. Yeah. So we've got no distortion because of refraction. Not 7/6R or any different. We've just got pure image here. That's why it's it looks so black and white. It's just a straight infrared shot. And it's just, how flat can it be? Look at that. It fits perspective. And to be seeing the Great Lake behind the range is just amazing.
Very cool. Right, we're going to do one more housekeeping question. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Oh, I just want to plug for a second Sleeping Warriors video that he uploaded yesterday. Really good one. Anybody see it?
No, I did not.
What? I posted it. Even a Master V. What is that? It was a really good one. He made a little video clip from Sabine Hossenfelder about gravity, and then basically her declaring how it's not a force and exactly how. And yeah, complete summarization. Brilliant video.
Okay,
Good
I did
edit.
not know he'd done that, but that's precisely what I was about to do. I haven't watched
Oh.
this yet. Right, okay, I don't know if anybody has watched this yet, but I like to do these things cold, so I intentionally haven't watched this. So while I was out and about, happened to be publishing one of the shows at either my mother-in-law's or my parents' house, I forget which, but I saw this pop up on the suggestions. I was like, I can't remember. One of the panel was pointing out that subtly in a recent Sabine Hossenfelder video, she'd been highlighting her error in regards to gravity being a force, which she'd alluded to, and then we'd corrected, may or may not be as a result of that, but she then corrected herself mid-video. But now she's done a very specific video on exactly that, titled Gravity is Not a Force. But what does that mean? So, as is always the case, and that's why the housekeeping question was just asked so we'd tail into it, but Arwen's, or Sleeping Warrior, has sort of beat me to it by the looks of things, which is great, because he's obviously had the same idea as me in that regard, which is, like minds think alike and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, there's a link going by in the chat right now. So, as is always the case, please let Sabine Hossenfelder know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a reasonably nice comment that says we've addressed her video, which is gravity is not a force. But what does that mean? Question mark, if you wanted to look it up. Because you're just listening, or you can't click on the live stream chat, or it's after the fact, or it isn't published yet because it's only just finished being live, whatever the reason. Hopefully I've waffled on long enough for a few of you to actually click on that link literally right now as we are live and I'm getting interrupted, that you can let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and just tell her that we responded to the video. The idea behind it is that hopefully, should Sabine Hossenfelder actually do a response to us, either critiquing or applauding her efforts in regards to this particular subject matter, she would put a link to our video. That is to say, she'd put a link like I have just done for her in our live stream chat, sending people our way to comment, like, subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980, as I am suggesting you do, or don't do, whatever you feel. Just click on that link. It's going by in the live stream chat, and hopefully that is enough waffly waffle for people to have done that and come back and see that we're still doing the call to action, and whoever was going to interrupt is going to interrupt now, and you'll get the continuation of the show having let her know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Go ahead, whoever that was.
I was going to say, I went back and looked, and the messages I tried to leave about Nathan Oakley sent me, or Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I can't find those messages from past videos that we've covered anywhere. I just would wonder if anyone else would like to go back and look and see if they can find their messages where if they have posted, if they actually exist anymore.
Seems a bit outrageous if that's the purpose YouTube have laid out for having the @ symbol within the YouTube algorithm, so that you can talk specifically about other channels within YouTube when you've been recommended. That's the purpose of it. I watched their training video. Yet, what, you go to a channel and YouTube remove your comment? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Sabine would prefer that people who are addressing her aren't highlighted in her comments, regardless of how much algorithmic love it offers her. You just don't know. So that could be just that each and every videographer goes, what? At Nathan Oakley's responded, and they go, oh, fantastic. I love it when people send video comments my way and help me in the algorithm and get me some more views. I wonder what he said about me. Oh, I'm going to remove every comment that has ever... That might be the case.
Are we able to watch Tony's vid? I've not seen it yet.
Or we're going to watch Sabine. I don't want to watch him responding
pretty
to
much
Sabine.
Sabine's video.
We will watch it, but his response to Sabine is his response. We're going to give our response, hopefully now, Adam. I haven't actually leveled this up yet, so can you just give me a second just so I can make sure the levels are okay?
It's taught us that gravity is not a force, and that's probably the most misunderstood physics fact
I watched the whole
ever.
thing the other day
Like,
because John
even
D posted it in
physicists
Skype.
get
It was the first link I saw for it.
Okay, well, you've now called upon yourself to give us a little preamble then, Paul. Thank you for nominating yourself.
Well, I just found it, with everything we know now, I just found the whole explanation of it very funny because they're going with the whole modern, up-to-date indie space-time thing, and it's just, I don't know, it just sounds even more ridiculous than the balls in the shed.
It is.
Idea.
It is. Kudos, again, 2 mentions already. QE, about, it's got to be 7 years ago now, was like, I want them to claim bent space-time. Pseudo-Riemannian force space-time is the easiest thing to undo ever. What, you want to talk to me about a pseudo-geometry? And how that will generate a force when it's pure mathematics? No, it's really easy to overcome, because it is really stupid, Paul. But when they're asserting 108-year, now almost 109-year out-of-date rhetoric of mass attracting mass, when it's superseded by Einsteinian pseudo-force space bending, you got a problem. You first got them to concede to their own bloody rhetoric, as Sabine is now doing. So let's listen. Thanks for the preamble.
it wrong all the time. Gravity is not a force, and since there's no force pushing down on you, that means you're currently accelerating upwards. Unless you're watching...
What? Sorry, because there's no force acting on me, it means I'm accelerating upwards. Talk about baseless assertion. No. Having no force act on me doesn't mean I'm accelerating upwards. That's utterly absurd. It's just a way of pushing the scale in the other direction. So when you're at 0, they need you to think that that's 1. 1g! Because that's exactly what they say it is. But you're not doing anything. You're not moving in any direction. But apparently, if there's no force acting on you, it means you're accelerating upwards. No.
Yes. She's actually invoking the upward rising Earth and then bending it around the globe. That's what she's going to do.
I understand where she's going with the equivalence principle. She knows what E equals mc squared is, right, Craig?
Watching this from the ISS, in which case, please say hi to the moon. How does gravity work if it's not a force?
Sorry, it doesn't. It's a bent pseudo-geometry. It doesn't do any work. See this word here, Sabine? Work? To do work, you need to be a force.
That's what we'll talk about today.
We just covered it. Without the gobbledygook, well, we'll be the judge of that. There's quite a lot of gobbledygook. An accelerometer is a device that measures acceleration. Okay. Well, if we're not moving, but you just say we're accelerating upwards, you're now going to justify this with an accelerometer, are you? When I'm not moving and you've disclaimed that I'm not moving. But also simultaneously moving upwards, because obviously if you've not got any force acting on you, you're moving upwards. No.
An accelerometer is a device that measures acceleration. If you'd hold an accelerometer steadily in your hand, it'd tell you it's accelerated upwards.
Would it? Doesn't that sound
You
stupid?
want to take that back to the shop then, don't you?
I'd probably want to return it. Yeah.
This isn't hypothetical where...
Sorry, it's not hypothetical. You get an accelerometer, you keep it stationary, but yeah, it's saying that it's going up. That's going to cause a problem.
I've got an accelerometer in my phone right now, and if I hold it out and use the spirit level function and I hold it steady, it says it's being held steady. It doesn't say I'm accelerating up. The accelerometers aren't registering anything.
Yeah, but you can presuppose that it's moving up.
No, that's a lie. She just claimed that the accelerometer will say I'm moving up if I hold it steady. It's not what the accelerometer will do. It's not registering an acceleration when it's static. That's why it registers static.
Correct and correct. Yes, Adam, absolutely correct. Also, Arwen, strangely, also 100% correct. Yes, Arwen, she's got to beg the question. She's asserted it twice. The fact that she's wrong is irrelevant. She's got to beg the question. She's going to be having you accelerating up because there's no force acting on you. You understand that no force, because gravity's not one, means you're accelerating up, Arwen. You understand that? Yes, of course he does. That's why Arwen reiterated it.
Yep. Yeah, but that's because she started, hasn't she, with fallacy. She started with the fallacy that there isn't a force pushing you down, therefore there has to be one moving you up. And she's proceeded from that point as a point of acceptance. And she masks it, look, because she says, what does she say? Gravity is not a force, and since there's no force pushing down on you, there must be one pushing up. You're just pushing down on you. That means you are currently accelerating upwards, right? Fallacy. Then she throws in a distractor, unless you're watching from the ISS, in which case, please say hi to the moon. Listen to that deception and, yeah, sleight of hand.
Acceleration. If you'd hold an accelerometer steadily in your hand, it'd tell you it's accelerated upwards. This isn't hypothetical, weird, theoretical physics talk. You can buy one and just see what it says. This is an example of how the reading of an accelerometer looks like when it's lying still on a table. It tells you it's accelerated upwards.
So you buy an accelerometer to find out how much things are accelerating, you lay it flat, and according to Sabine Hosselenfelder, it tells you that it's moving. So if I was to apply this accelerometer to an F1 car, where it had critical importance that they weren't moving before, say, a gun went off, and it constantly said the thing was moving, wouldn't that pose a problem?
And this is entirely...
Yeah, it would.
But I mean,
it's a contradiction.
It's not saying that at all. It's just being presupposed. So it's like moving that bar, right? What is 0G? What is 1G? She's just moving it.
She started this off by saying, with a title, that this is without the gobbledygook. Is it gobbledygook to say, if you're not moving, that's what she's qualified. You are not moving. Okay, Sabine, I understand. Not moving. Stationary. At rest. Still. Not moving. Cool, got you. Then you're accelerating up. Whoa, you blow my mind there. What? I just understood that I wasn't moving, but you tell me that when I'm not moving, I am moving. That's a complete contradiction in terms. One that she must have you accept for her to move forward in a pseudo-bent space 4 time that isn't a force. But because it's not a force, it means that you're automatically accelerating through geodesics in space-time. Obviously. It's described in the 4th dimension. No, we're not. No, I have to accept that when I'm not moving, I'm actually experiencing 1G.
Correct. If you hold an accelerometer...
calibration issue.
Go ahead, Adam.
So, for example, an accelerometer at rest on the Earth's surface will measure an acceleration due to Earth's gravity straight upwards by definition of 9.8. By contrast, accelerometers in free fall will measure 0. So it's about how you've defined what's going off. Yeah, if you drop an accelerometer, it will notice that movement. Yeah, but that free fall movement is then set to be 0, so that when it's static, it's at 9.8 upwards. It's just a matter of.
So they're claiming that
what is 0 within the device. Yeah,
they're claiming that falling is not an acceleration.
Yes, I've said this. I said this years ago. All the trick is to move the scale by 1. What do we experience on Earth? 1G. What do you mean we experience 1G? 1 force unit to not do a damn thing. All right, what about if I'm falling? Oh, well, that's nothing. That's 0G. If you're perpetually falling around the world in a spaceship, you'd be floating around all the time. That's 0G. Akin to you falling and about to be splatting on the ground. You understand this equivalence principle?
You can't do that, though, because you speed up while you're falling. It's an acceleration.
Yeah, an accelerate. Now you're talking their language. What, the acceleration due to the force of gravity? It's not a force, though, John. But if I just move the scale, then you're automatically accelerating up anyway, aren't you?
No,
it's so simple.
But when you're falling, you're not accelerating, but you are. That's a lie.
Yep.
But it's not you that's accelerating down. It's the Earth that's accelerating up.
Precisely.
In all directions.
No,
yes,
it can't be.
I'm going to say that later.
Let me just agree with him so that you can disagree with him. Yes, that's correct rhetoric. Feel free to disagree, John.
It can't be because you are accelerating to the ground. You are speeding up. That's not the Earth moving and accelerating up. That's you accelerating to the Earth.
But if I set the calibration of the device so that the device thinks when it's in free fall, that means 0. So at that point, the device, when I then put it on a table and leave it, because I've set 0 to free fall, then the accelerometers will give me a reading of 9.8 when it's actually at rest. Because I've told the machine, when I throw it out the window, that's 0. So
there's one more thing you missed. It's decelerating. It's going from the rate of perceived, with a scale change, constant acceleration. It's decelerating down to 0 at the point of...
That's acceleration.
It's decelerating to 0, though, isn't it? It's getting slower.
No, that's acceleration.
Yeah, in reality, you're speeding up after you jump off the building, but that's not what the scale shows on your accelerometer if you mush the scale by 1.
Right. It's irrelevant what the scale says. It's still acceleration.
Correct.
You're still accelerating down.
Yeah, correct. You've just moved the scale 1. But that's what they need to be automatically understood to be the case the moment they start talking about non-forces of pseudo-bent geometry. So long as we all automatically assume 9.8 meters per second is going to be the force of Earth moving up, that we experience by an equivalence principle described in Einsteinian mathematics that gives us an automatic force that alters to Earth when we describe the non-force in pseudo-geometry. Because it's already there when you're sat still. Right? That's what she's just gone through.
That's what I meant with they're moving the bar. They're just dislocating the scale, right? Just saying, oh no, we're just going to presuppose it's different. Just move it, and now you can look at it from a different perspective. But as refracted curvature Johnny are saying, it doesn't actually work that way.
No, it doesn't, because you speed up while you're falling. So when does this 9.8 meters? Is it as soon as you throw it? Is it when it reaches the maximum speed it can fall through air? When does 9.8 meters exactly happen?
Acceleration anymore, John. It's about presupposing that accelerating is always there and decelerating is just like the opposite. It's just moving the whole thing around, making it very confusing.
Making it false.
That too. But also primarily very confusing.
Yeah, but so false that you need to take it into a pseudo-force-based geometry with time being bent as the result of that geodesic in space-time giving us on Earth a constant value, where when you're sat still, you've still got a force of gravity. But it isn't a force when you describe it in the bent geodesic for space-time of Einsteinian fourth space, is it? So your confusion should be addressed within the Einsteinian mathematics if you're a baller, because then your confusion isn't being addressed with the fact that it's just wrong, John.
Right, but the confusion doesn't work within the Einsteinian concept either, because when you first begin to fall, you are not traveling at the maximum rate of fall yet. So this idea that the Earth's rising up, it doesn't work.
It only works. I know it does still work. For them, it works because you only reference the Earth, and it has your constant rising velocity in respect to you, but it's not you that you're referencing. It's the Earth, isn't it, in their description?
But your acceleration is changing.
There's you talking about you and what you're doing when it's specifically and only in reference to what Earth's doing. So try again and only start with what Earth does, and then you'll be on the right track.
Then the accelerometer cannot measure that.
But it is. Look on the little squiggly lines that she shows you, John.
What I'm saying is she's referencing the accelerometer to say that can measure that. But when I point out that it can't measure that, you're saying it's only measuring Earth.
Yes, and then I can take you to Einsteinian pseudo-geometry simply because what you say is correct. It is wrong, but if I take you to a pseudo-bent space fourth-time geometry, then when I describe a bent geodesic in space-time, I will hope that that will take us well away from the fact that this is just based in an incorrect assertion that starts with an acceleration when you're not doing anything.
Right, but they have a fixed 9.8
space-time
meters per second.
No, per second.
That's not true.
No, it's per second squared.
That's not true. Whatever, that's not true.
No, you've got to start somewhere. But if you're already accelerating up at the rate that the Earth is accelerating up, that's your starting point in their mathematics, isn't it? You are as one with that eternally moving up reference frame. So therefore, you can start with that premise, and she does, and shows it you on the scale that's just been moved up one when she shows you an accelerometer. We all clear? Now, further to that, John.
Down in Australia.
We'll get to that later. That's only relative to your example. For that example on a ball, you would be moving up in Australia. You only can do one place at a time.
Didn't NASA disprove all of gravity?
I'll be the baller and just say clearly,
the...
do you understand bent geodesics in space-time? If the answer is no, then Mr. Ignorant, you need to step out of this conversation. That's what I would do as a baller. And if you say yes, then good, we can argue about bent geodesics in space-time for a bit, can't we? Let's not worry about Australia. If you want it to be in Australia, we can do the example in Australia. But it's going to be the same exact principle.
I'm not a
we're
baller.
only describing it from the man in Australia's point of view, not juxtaposing it with me in England. And in Australia, yeah, Earth's still rising up for him too. Do you understand bent geodesics in space-time? If the answer's no, then fine, I'll explain them to you, moving us further away from the reality of Earth and Australia and ball and antipodal positioning. And I'm going to keep talking long words till you get bored. Are you bored yet?
No, I'm very interested. And I'm not a globe baller. I know you're not. I was just asking.
I'm being the baller. I know you're not. I'm being the baller.
Okay.
I'm being a prick because I'm emulating what they would do to take us into bent geodesics in space-time so that we're not highlighting the fact that this say antipodal.
Well, I would say that since space is imaginary and time is just like a thought, that you're using words without definition. Space-time is not a thing. There isn't space. And time is just where we're at right now. You can't go back in time and you can't go forward in time while staying in this time. So space-time just doesn't exist. That's
perfect.
A non-argument.
Absolutely correct. Hence the reason, you couldn't have said it better myself, that I alluded earlier to the fact that QE often points out that when they're alluding to the 109-year out-of-date rhetoric of mass attracting mass, it's a stage that you have to take them through to get them to bent geodesics in a conceptual medium. And you're saying, there is no conceptual medium time bending. Yeah, it's that easy, isn't it? Is it, Jason? It's that easy when you get them to understand and disseminate their own rhetoric of Einstein. It's just not true, is it? Easy.
No, it's not. It can't be. And when they dropped the feather and the bowling ball in the vacuum chamber, and then Buddy concluded that the ball and feather never moved, but the Earth moved to them, well, they still disproved gravity because gravity should uphold it. If they floated like they were in space because there was no air, then that means that there's no gravity.
Correct. So what you're essentially pointing out at this stage, and Sabine Hossenfelder may do the same, is that it's completely superseding mass attracting mass. Absolutely correct, Jason. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is wonderful.
Well, it's just nice that you're going through the motions of something that QE wanted to get people to appreciate 7 or 8 years ago, which is to say, why are we arguing about 108 year? At the time, it was 102 year out of date. I remember, saying it's 100 years out of date when it was a couple of years after that in actual time. But ultimately speaking, it's gone from that to almost 110 years out of date in the time that QE's been perpetuating this notion that They've only got a mass attracting mass force because they need one. The moment you get into bent pseudo force-based geometry, it's pseudo geometry. It's all in the maths. What do they need then? They just need to beg the question that there's automatically a force of Earth moving up. That's what they've just told you. That's what Sabine's telling you. And so long as we can swallow that total garbage, that's really easy to just go, no. No, I don't accept your contradiction in terms. I don't accept that when I am sitting not moving up, that I'm moving up. Because you say when I'm still, I'm moving up. And therefore when I'm falling, I'm at 0. Because that's utterly absurd. And giving me all the bent geodesics in space-time you like will never ascribe any force that you need to keep me on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum. It's absurd. Far easier to do it with Einstein than it is with Newton. But the kiddies are indoctrinated with Newton, so they stand by it, like Craig, fight the flat earth woman beater, because that's what they've been indoctrinated with, and they damn well need a force, don't they? They don't have one anymore. So let's just beg the question that we're moving upwards. Nah, I'm not good with that because it's a contradiction in terms.
Well, with the 9.8 meters per second downward, where do you get downwards on a sphere? There's only in and out.
Yeah, the antipodal positioning. Jason's already covered it. Exactly. That's where he started, isn't it? That was you, wasn't it, Jason? Before I give credit to you, someone else might have said it. Was it?
I think it was me. I'm not sure though.
Was that not the first thing you came in? Does this work in Australia or something like that?
I'll take the credit.
Yeah, that was the first thing I said.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Exactly. And I just got around it as the baller and said, well, we're only going to do it from the one position at a time. If you want to describe Australia, then it's going to work exactly the same way for that reference point on a sphere. Go on, John. Take it to pieces.
Irrelevant. 9.8 meters per second only applies in relation to a horizontal plane because it's downward.
Yeah.
It's not a sphere.
You guys need a flat Earth more than we do for your gravity in this instance. With reference to what? When you go up in a particular direction at a particular speed with an accelerated rate, you'll need to reference horizontal for that. Spot on. Anything else before we move on? We'll play a bit more video.
Meters still on the surface of Earth, it's indeed accelerated upward. Why does that surprise you? If you hold something on your...
I'll tell you why it surprises me, because it's incorrect.
Yep.
So what I've just been looking at, we did accelerometers years ago with Tesla's Apple and stuff. This is weight. This is why you have to set it, because you've basically got a weight on a spring is an accelerometer, and you're measuring vibration based on 3 different axis springs. But it's still a weight on a spring. So that's why you're going to get a reading on a weight on a spring when it's at rest, even, because you're stretching the spring. Now, if you bother to reset that string stretch, as you would like you do on a set of scales, so the things you measure are commensurate from 0, but they're not doing that. What they do is reset the structure to give you this false force so that the machine reads you're going up at 9.8 when it's actually at rest. Well, that's a misnomer, isn't it? Yeah, because that what that force, which she's claiming is not a force, that is actually weight that's being measured by the device at that point. It's just the stretch of the spring in that direction. But that, which should be, because remember, this is an accelerometer, and the devices are designed to measure accelerations in different directions. But at this point, even in the manuals, it recognizes the contradiction here, because there is no acceleration. So to ascribe minus 9.8 is actually incorrect. Yeah, you're doing it under a belief system, so that the machine works correct, but when you interpret it, you've got the belief that you're already accelerating up, so that when you do drop the device, even though you can see it accelerating to the ground, the device will read 0.
hand, you feel that it's pressing against your hand downward. It's like when you're trying to accelerate a car with your hand, it'll push against it. If you hold something in your...
Why are you describing all these forces? I'm not really understanding this. You know, you opening credit says gravity is not a force, but you're comparing it to all these different forces. Yeah, that's what you need to confuse your audience. So your doublespeak works.
Your hand, that's not the gravitational force pushing it down.
So what gravitational force? It's not the force that we automatically assume when we transpose it into you moving when you're not moving. So it's not that force.
Because gravity isn't a force. It's pushing on your hand because you are accelerating it upward.
But you're not. That's the whole point. You're not accelerating it upwards, are you? If you were, you wouldn't be describing it as not moving. But you need to automatically have an acceleration in place to replace the out-of-date, 109-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass force that held us all to your spinning water ball that's been derived from flat Earth measurements. So it makes sense when you transpose a flat Earth measurement onto a ball that we're not standing on, because people ask why you wouldn't fly off it. Therefore, you got a force, but you haven't got a force. So you just take that non-force of mass-attracting mass, which it doesn't, and say that we're automatically experiencing a force of constant upwards. Earth's moving up. Totally absurd, easy to overcome, garbage. And how does she get there? Well, she takes a device and says that because we've got a spring dangling with a weight on it, that means we're accelerating up always. And I can therefore infer that when we're falling, we're at zero.
Why is the thing in your hand accelerated if you don't?
It isn't. If it's not moving, it's not accelerating. But automatically accelerating, says Sabine, nope.
Don't move your hand. It's because you are accelerated. And you...
By way of begging the question fallacy. If I've said it now for the third time, then it's definitely the case. I said it in the opening, I said it after the gobbledygook slide, and now I'm saying it again. You are moving upwards. Why? Because I say so. I mean, when you're still, that's you moving upwards, obviously, because I say so. What's that you don't understand? Bent geodesics in space-time is what you need, my friend. Go ahead, who can't help themselves.
Upwards on an inertial, well, it would be a non-inertial plane, would be her assertion.
They'll need a flat Earth to assert this.
Yeah, because it's up and down. It's a vector with relation to horizontal.
You are accelerated because there's a force pushing on you from...
Gravity's not a force, but you are accelerating because there's a force on you. I see. It's just an automatic force, and now let's talk about bent space-time. Just exactly as I predicted.
Below, that's the floor, or rather the atomic bonds in the floor and in the ground below. You see, the entire Earth has internal pressure. Otherwise, it'd collapse. That pressure generates a force on everything.
Sorry, it would by way of what? Begging the question, circular reasoning argument that because it's circular, it's got to have imposing forces that are working their way outwards. Otherwise, it would all fail. I see. So if it wasn't for your automatic assumption of these forces on a sphere Earth, we'd all die. So just work that in with a bit of death cell and then we'll all accept that too, right? No, we don't accept any of this.
Everything on the surface.
Is not up and down.
One more time.
Outward pressure is not up and down.
Yeah, how are you going to get an accelerated frame of reference from that? Exactly.
And as Newton taught us, a force creates acceleration. So that pressure of Earth creates a force which accelerates you on the surface.
Sorry? So we're being accelerated on the surface to zero. So we're not moving, but we're going to be accelerated to 9.8 meters per second because we're not moving. Yeah, it almost makes sense if you're a complete bonehead.
But wait, you may say, there's also the gravitational force pushing down.
No, we never said that. So what, net force zero? So you're going to overcome net force zero before you go to, what, bent geodesics?
So the two forces balance to zero, right? No, because gravity is not a force. Gravity is a consequence of moving in a space-time that's been curved by the presence of masses.
Yeah, so predictable in terms of what she's going to go through. We've already covered it. Any actual comment on this, given we've already discussed it?
Well, other than the validation is now been set up to be moved into mathematics.
Yep.
Because,
Yeah. I beg the question that you're moving up because of, I say you're moving up. If I say it 3 times, we're moving up. Now, let's go into some pseudo-geometry, so that this entire description takes place in a pseudo-geometry that isn't reality. Bob's your uncle. We all still accept and remember that she's told us Earth's moving up, though, and we definitely know that the scale isn't 0 at 0, and when you're not moving, you're moving. We all accept that. No, Sabine, because it's nonsense.
If there are no masses near...
That's nonsense, isn't it? Because
Hold on, they'll accept.
that fact that you can't move up if you're on a ball, all of you in the center, yeah? So it's now been re-explained that that's just a way for you to experience this non-force force, because actually what you're experiencing when you drop something that's heavier than air going down is just an effect of the transition through the bending of space-time. So it's your transition through this thing that's bent by mass that gives you this effect. Now, obviously that is so nonsensical and can only be described mathematically, where you reify this dimension that you can't show or demonstrate or even realistically conceive. The human mind can't conceive a 4th dimensional thing. Yeah. The only way is to describe it mathematically. And that's what she's about to do now. And that to her will justify everything, because we've moved from reality into maths.
Quick shout out to Godzilla.
Before she explains,
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
before she explains it mathematically, they've just admitted that gravity is 10 to the 26th power weaker than the ether. And so that's like 0. There is no gravity.
Yeah, 10 to the 26 of 0 is 0.
There's no ether either.
Yeah, that was the point.
Shout out to Godzilla37. He says, I want $5 Canadian too. If I was forced to review Sabine's videos for your entertainment and education, $5 actually seems far from fair. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support, Godzilla. It says, oh, and hi. Hello. Thank you for the support.
nearby to curve space-time, it's flat. So long as there's no force acting on an object in this flat space-time, the object will move in a straight line. If there are masses nearby...
There's a little dangly carrot for anybody to leech onto. Oh, something's flat in this bent geodesic space-time in a pseudo-geometry, mathematics, non-physics. Who cares? This is all nonsense. You can't travel space-time. Time's a concept. Like the pseudo-geometry has in its title. This is all conceptual. None of this is going to explain anything to do with your reification of a force on an outward ball that makes no sense for an Earth that's moving up constantly to give you a 9.8 meters per second force of up explained away by a non-geodesic based system that we don't live in. This is all garbage. This is total gobbledygook. Sabine, you lie with your slides.
Space-time will curve, and the object no longer moves in a straight line.
All we will get is total nonsense in a bent geodesic world of pseudo-geometry now. None of this will have any physics base at all. That is to say, none of this is physical.
Even in the absence of a force.
It's imaginary in nation now, because the justification law is if we were able to have a object which was not surrounded by any other masses and it was traveling through space, it'd travel in a space line, a straight line, because there'd be no bending of space-time. And therefore, you know that there's bending of space-time because that's how we experience weight. Yeah, because there are masses around us.
I see. So what you're saying, if we weren't going on the weaving sort of snake-like back and forth S-shaped motion that we have to take because of the unicorns that are invisible that we have to negotiate in that motion, there'd be no motion. And basically, the world would collapse because it wasn't following that constant vibration which an S-shaped path dodging unicorns is. If we weren't following that constant vibration, we wouldn't have the constant vibration that we experience here on Earth. Some know it as the hum. Well, therefore, we have to have those unicorns that we're dodging in that S-shaped pattern to create the vibration. Therefore, unicorns. So it only seems reasonable.
The usual way to explain this is with a large marble on a rubber sheet that...
Why? I don't see any bent space-time here. I see very much a physical material bending. This could be described in Euclidean three-dimensional space, as opposed to with only a bent space-time being reified out of the bent physical material. No, Sabine, this is three-dimensional. On a two-dimensional screen, I might add. But nevertheless, definitely no fourth dimension in this presentation, Sabine. I feel lied to. Where's the fourth dimension? Oh, it's not there? So what? But if I think of the bent sheet in 3D physical reality as though it was the fourth dimensional space-time geodesic bending, like if I imagine myself as a 2D playing card. If I was a 2D playing card, I wouldn't know that there was a world that was three-dimensional, because I'd be two-dimensional. So if I'm that playing card, I can't picture the three-dimensionality beyond my world, because I'm a flat piece of paper. But likewise, I, in a three-dimensional world that this example set in, can't experience the fourth dimensional geodesic that this represents. It's just an analogy. No, there's no 4D space time in this garbage. Yeah, you're just making it up. Yeah, that's why it's called pseudo in the title, Sabine. Yeah, Einstein very clearly made it explicitly stated that this is pseudo-Riemannian for space-time. Only exists in the maths. But yet you've decided to reify it into something that's clearly a three-dimensional physical representation. I feel cheated, Sabine. I do feel like you are actually a con man. Like a complete fraud, a con artist, cheating people. You're telling them that this is magic fourth dimensional world. Magic, Sabine. And how do you show them it? Well, with three-dimensional worlds that everybody already experiences. That's a con, isn't it? That's a con. We're being conned with this. They're telling you there's a magic world that you don't see, called a time dimension. Time sounds familiar, right? Well, what does it represent? Oh, well, it's this. Your bench sheet. That's time dimensions right there, says the magician. This is a complete con. We're being had, aren't we?
That deforms the rubber. This is an analogy for...
Rubber is an analogy for bent warping geodesics in a space-time pseudo-dimension? How dare you, you fraud, you con. You're conning the world, Sabine. It's a disgrace. With your repetition of this Einsteinian garbage. Publish and be damned, you fraud.
how, say, a planet curves space-time around it.
Oh, I see. So this is analogous to how the lights in the sky bent a non-physical pseudo-Riemannian time dimension because this sheet bends when you put a marble on it. And that's what the lights in the sky are doing. They're all sat on bent rubber sheets. Oh, it's just an analogy. Yeah, I called it before you said it.
And then another smaller marble, which...
You expect it.
Get your phone sorted, Neil.
seems to be attracted to the bigger one. It's a pretty good...
Shocking. So you put something in the middle of a rubber sheet and then put something lighter, it'll find its way to it. Therefore, that's what we're doing. We just don't see it, but obviously we're on a much longer timeline because time has also got an idea of how we progress through the known universe and also a bent geodesic in itself as a dimension. Of course, and therefore that's represented by this rubber sheet here, you complete con artist. No, it isn't. Nobody else getting as annoyed as I am at being conned by a clear fraud with a shell game on the street telling us that there's a world that we don't know that's being experienced by bending rubber. Nobody else outraged by this. I am.
I'm a bit irritated.
It's a fraud.
I'm
It's a
frustrated
complete
by
lie.
the opposite effect that the model will demonstrate as well. Is that supposed to be Earth and the Moon? Is it? I mean, how many orbits does the Moon give us then before it collapses into? I mean, I'm thinking impending Armageddon, from what she's claiming, but don't her stats say the Moon's moving away?
Yeah, it's analogous.
It's
Just ignore the bit where they smash into each other. We don't experience that, therefore it's not in the slightest bit analogous, but it's analogous because it's a bent fabric, and I'm going to call time a fabric. Therefore, this is analogous. It doesn't matter that it doesn't look anything like the lights in the sky. It doesn't retain any cyclical patterns. They just smash into each other. And obviously, when you look up in the lights in the sky, they don't do that, but I'm going to say it's analogous because I just need you to see a warping fabric, because in a minute I'm going to tell you that time is that fabric in three-dimensionality examples that I've given you here. Just an analogy, though.
Visualization. It's just that you shouldn't ask why the big marble bends the rubber. Then it gets really confusing. So in this curve...
Does it? We wouldn't go into tensile strength or anything then. It just confused people. Tensile strength beyond the grasp of most people with your non-gobbledygook world of a fourth dimension represented by a three-dimensional bent rubber. It's too complicated to explain tensile strength. I don't think so.
Have I just been told I'm too stupid to understand the real explanation by?
Yes. Yes, you can have the convoluted gaggle-screw gobbledygook of bent fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian force space-time given to you, but the example of how the rubber bends is just beyond your meagre little brain, Mr. Meakin.
Thank you for saving me that pain, Sabine.
Space-time around...
Isn't that how all con jobs work, though?
Yes,
because the confidence of the person ripping you off.
Yeah, you're too stupid to understand this. That's right. Excellent point, John. You don't worry your stupid little precious little head. Have confidence in me to tell you how bent geodesic space-time is. I will educate you. You put your faith in me, because I'm confident in what I tell you. You're confident, right, Sabine? That bent geodesics in space-time are represented by a bit of rubber, and that's how the stars aren't smashing into each other, because it's analogous. Con artist, fraud. That's what the world's undergoing. That's all this is. The whole thing. The globe Earth is just a massive fraud. Perpetrated by people like her. She's conning you.
The planet, if there's no force acting on you, you fall towards the planet.
Do you? What about all the gas around this so-called planet in your reification taken from a flat Earth measurement? Wouldn't all the gas, based on entropic law, the second law of thermodynamics, expand out into the area of volume? Because even in your own stupid rhetoric, you've got a man that needs to keep his gas within the spacesuit, so the gas doesn't expand into the black area of space. Yet the Earth you think is spherical below with this nonsense of bent pseudo-force space doesn't have the gas following entropic law. That's totally stupid. The gas down here would need something to keep it inside, like the spaceman that you stupidly think is in the space vacuum that the gas isn't expanding into. So this stupid nonsense is easy to overcome too. It certainly doesn't affirm a bent 4D space-time that isn't a force, because, oh, don't forget, I'll mention it again at the end just to make absolutely sure you all know that we're all moving up on an Earth that's moving out because the pressure's moving in. But do you understand bent force space-time? Do you now? Do you? Trust me, I do. Don't you, Sabine?
That's not an acceleration. But if something gets in your way, like the surface of the planet, then that creates a force. So now you're accelerated. This is why there's no...
So as he heads towards the ground, falling, he's not accelerating, and when he hits the ground, he's then accelerating. Yeah, so essentially zero until he meets the Earth that's moving up, but he isn't moving up in your example because the guy is moving down towards it. And contrapositively, as the guy on the panel called Jason pointed out, how does this work for someone in Australia if you're going to give you a net force zero? Because everything's moving out with pressure, but you're not giving us a force with the bent space-time. So none of this works anymore, Sabine. It's total nonsense.
Force pushing down on you right now. There's only a force pushing up. If you took away the surface of Earth, you'd fall. And if...
So how does that work for the guys in Australia? Props to the guy on the panel called Jason. First thing he pointed out. Oh, it's just relative to you when you give one example with one little section of the Earth moving up. Yeah, you're going to need a horizontal plane of reference. Props to John for pointing that out.
If you fell, there'd be again no force acting on you. This is also why the Earth would collapse if it had no internal pressure.
Back to that again. So begging the question, this is X2, second time she's made sure she makes you understand with her con artistry that you will beg the question alongside her. I don't do that. I said it the first time. But you're going to reiterate it as a baseless assertion for the second time so your audience knows that you know better. Don't worry your precious little head about our rubber bends, but understand and know that she knows. She's very confident.
It's not because there's a gravitational force acting on the matter, because gravity isn't a force. It's because without internal pressure, stuff would just freely fall in the curvature that is.
Sorry, without internal pressure, stuff would free fall in the curvature. When you say this stuff, Sabine, do you not appreciate how utterly ridiculous you sound? With your begging the question affirmation with an assumption of consequence with respect to a curve. It sounds stupid because it is.
If there was no stuff there, then there would be no curve in her claim.
It itself creates. Without internal pressure, Earth would form a tiny black hole about 3 millimeters in diameter, and the real estate market would go to hell.
Likewise, if it wasn't for the unicorns we're negotiating with a vibration in an S shape as we traverse a sky vacuum, we would all implode, because without that vibration, things would go very bad very quickly. I, in fact, would assert that the unicorns, were they to leave our presence, negating the curve-shaped path in an S shape for the vibration, in the libration, you wouldn't have the black hole that you suggest, but a red dwarf. That's what Earth would become. It's the S-shaped motion that's stopping us not being a red dwarf. Obviously. How absurd. What does she take her audience for?
No, she gave us more proof there, Nathan. In fact, you have got practical real-life experience of this. You used to sell houses. Is there a real estate market?
Yes, there is.
Is it in hell? No. So therefore, all of what she said is true because there's still a ball Earth. Therefore, there's a real estate market. So as she's described, what's holding all that together, got to be true. We've got realtors.
Absolutely.
But let's go back to the...
That's what she just offered up. She does these, makes a weak argument, and then puts a sarcastic comment after a very weak point. I pulled the first one, and she's just done it again. Sleight of hand.
The accelerometers to see what else they can tell us. The easiest example of an accelerometer is a spring. Yes, a plain, boring spring. Suppose you put a spring into outer space, empty space, flat space.
No, you can't do that, unfortunately, Sabine, because there is no outer space, because outer space is claimed to be a sky vacuum. Now, if the sky vacuum was real, as you infer in this example, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Because gas fills space. So if the sky was a space, outer space, a sky vacuum, we'd all be dead. Gas would expand into the area of volume known as outer space, leaving us without any gas to breathe. We'd all be dead in this example, Sabine. So no, outer space isn't real. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. So now why are you giving us examples in second law of thermodynamics violations of outer space? They're not real. But let's see what you got to say anyway.
How does it get there? I don't...
It doesn't. There is no outer space to get to. In the same way, if I gave you a spring example in Narnia, you wouldn't be questioning how you get to Narnia.
No, maybe Bob the astronaut lost it on a spacewalk?
Why do we think we can get there? Because astronauts are liars. They lie about going to outer space. Did you want to add something, Jason? Or are you just hot micing? Hot micing.
I wasn't saying anything, sorry, I just moved. I'll turn my mic off.
No worries.
Hear these things happen? Okay, there's a spring in outer space for whatever reason. It'll have...
Okay, I'll do that too. There's a spring in Narnia too. For whatever reason. Why would we get to Narnia? Well, because we went through the wardrobe. What's that? You haven't got a wardrobe to go through? Oh, well, there are people who have done it. I'm just going to call them bastronauts. They're the ones who go through the wardrobe. So the bastronauts are holding the spring in Narnia. Likewise, there's a spring in outer space. It doesn't matter that Narnia is not real, and it doesn't matter that space is a second law of thermodynamics violation. Our example's going to take place in a parallel universe of both Narnia and outer space because of the bastronauts and astronauts. Cool? We all cool?
Have some extension. Now, if you tie that spring to a rocket and that rocket blasts off, what's going to happen with the spring?
If you tie the spring to one of the sleds that the White Witch is riding, what do you think's going to happen to the spring in Narnia? Let's find out.
It'll expand so long as the velocity...
Whoa. Yeah, in Narnia, it's not that the spring expands. The entire world of Narnia contracts around the White Witch. Do you not know anything about Narnia physics? It may seem like it's expanding, but the White Witch doesn't go anywhere. I assure you, the world contracts around her.
velocity of the rocket changes. Why is that?
Well, you'd say, why would the witch want to accelerate? She's whipping the horses. But she doesn't. The world just contracts around her in Narnia. I mean, this is all clear and been made clear from those astronauts that have been to Narnia.
Well, as Newton taught us, force equals mass times acceleration.
Does it?
So if you accelerate one end of the spring, that creates...
What's mass? Anybody? What's mass?
Which means weight.
Weight?
It's a place you go to in Roman Catholicism. It's called the Mass.
Hold on, weight? But does this apply in a vacuum and Narnia? Because there's definitely gases going all directions in Narnia. I don't know about space. I mean, that's something I should have checked with my parallel. Maybe I should check with the astronauts when they tell us about how the world of Narnia contracts around springs when the White Witch pulls them. No takers? No one going to define mass for us? Weight, you say?
Well, she means weight because that's all she can ever measure. But when she wants to take you to Fantasyland, then weight becomes M times G. So that you can invoke G. You have to, then you invoke M, and that's where it gets tricky because then you've got to really define M. Because the only reason you invoked it in the first place was to be able to secondarily invoke G, or primarily invoke G. It's a kind of bastard son.
Where will they get G from? Would it be helpful if it was automatically in place because we're automatically experiencing it, like when we're not moving and stuff?
Yeah, if you automatically assume it's there, you don't have to worry about why you've invoked it.
Oh, cool. That's handy.
It's a force, and that force stretches the spring. You can measure how much it stretches, and from that you can calculate how much it was accelerated.
No, not in Narnia you can't. Because although in your world, as you stretch out the tape measure as she gallops away whipping the horses, what you don't appreciate is that both you and your tape measure are simultaneously being contracted by the world of Narnia around the White Witch. The whole thing, including your tape measure, the scale of the tape measure, if we were to look out from a fifth reference frame in the fifth dimension, which we can do, just ask the astronauts. That's how I know this. Nevertheless, I've been to the fifth dimension, you may not have. You can read all about it. There's works. Nevertheless, as we look in, we would see the whole world squashing around, including the measurement tool, in this case tape measure, to measure how much the spring's expanded. Nah, it stays the same. In Narnia. Just ask the astronauts.
Yeah, I know this isn't exactly rocket science, even if it is, but bear with me for a moment.
It is rocket science in Narnia, so we're all definitely assured that there is a sky vacuum that gas isn't expanding into, that these liars I call astronauts, and you say confirm this, are in. No, there is no second law of thermodynamics violation outer space sky vacuum. We'd all be dead, Sabine. Don't you know how gas behaves? Please let her know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Now that we're well into the commentary, you can give her a vague idea if you choose what we've been telling her. And that's that gas go down, go boom, boom in your rhetoric, does it, Sabine? Au contraire, gas expands into space. It's a law of nature. Please click the link. It's going by in the live stream chat. And I would hope that Sabine were to respond and address some of these points we've pointed out with her con artistry, where she invents pseudo-dimensions and reifies them into existence, by way of rubber sheet bending that obviously we wouldn't understand. How dare you? Right, Adam? Please let her know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There's a link going by in the chat right now.
This example tells us three very important things. First, you can use a spring to measure acceleration. It's not the only way to do it, and maybe not even a particularly good one, but it works, and acceleration is measured.
Right, so if I go to Narnia and invent a thing that will prove something, I can then take that supposition of how things would work in Narnia, bring it back, and make a statement about the real world.
Yes. For example, in the fifth dimension, I can watch the entire world of Narnia contract around the White Witch. Now, if, obviously, nobody's actually attaching springs to the White Witch, you'd just be turned into a box of chocolates. But if you, hypothetically, were to attach a spring to the White Witch as she galloped away, all that would happen from your fifth dimensional vantage point, Adam, as I am describing, and we'll take back into our real world shortly, you would see the whole world contracting around her. Now, I can take that example into our world. I can do that, Adam, yes, because I have described it from the fifth dimension. Did I not explain the fifth dimension to you while I was explaining watching and onlooking as the world of Narnia contracted around that damn spring I described?
Yeah, I'm getting the understanding now. So even though I'm just going to experience it as a stretching spring, I've just got to know that from the science of knowing how it works in Narnia, I can be given the assurance that it's not the spring that's stretching, it's merely me that stretches.
You wouldn't perceive any stretching. No, everything. No. Net stretching 0, Adam, in Narnia. So as you pull out the tape measure, from your vantage point, right, when you're watching the White Witch gallop away, let's say you've attached the spring to the lamppost, you will absolutely see the spring stretching. But in reality, the net stretch is 0 because the whole world is then contracting around that stretching because there's no force that's ever going to be exerted on the White Witch. You can't exert did I not remind you over and over again 3 times? You can't exert a force on the White Witch. Well, what if you were hypothetically attaching a spring to her? Well, then the world would contract around her, and we know this because of the very complex fifth dimensional geometry that I can describe it from when looking in on the world. Now, if you're just there experiencing in the first instance, you just watch the spring get bigger, and you can even pull out your tape measure and stretch the tape measure and go, it's 25 feet, it's 30 feet, it's 50 feet. But in reality, that spring and the tape measure and the whole world around you is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So as I look at the spring, it doesn't change. Net spring force on which 0. You understand?
Got you. Yeah, I've got you. And that's what I should apply to how I view the real world now.
Yeah. Now, if we were to remove the spring, there's a huge force that's obviously automatically there that we all automatically experience. I mean, there's no spring to be pulling it or pushing it or watching or measuring, but we understand that the non-force that the witch experiences in stretching terms, if you were qualifying it with a spring, ultimately results in an always existing force that you don't experience, that we can now all assume together. It's the spring force of the contracting world in Narnia 5th dimension. You understand? That's quite a powerful force that we don't experience, because obviously spring tensions on witches aren't forces. Obviously, it's not a force, but the automatic assumption of the force that must be there is very strong. Keeps you to the world, in fact. It keeps you stuck to Narnia. I mean, you'd tear apart. Imagine what would happen to your body if that force wasn't there. When that happened, when the world, you'd be squashed to a pea, wouldn't you, Adam? Obviously, you're not squashed to a pea, are you? No.
Proof. No, that's a lot better, because I was obviously struggling with the complexity of a bending rubber sheet. So thanks for simplifying that for me.
Well, if you understood 5th dimensions, bless your little cotton socks, you'd have understood it immediately, but you need me here to explain it. You as well, the audience, bless you. I'm so grateful you're here. Please give me money. Also, fund me greatly if I go to a very old building and decide to lecture people on this stuff. Give me huge quantities of money for that. I implore you. Because you wouldn't understand it. And you need me to explain this to you. If it wasn't for me, how would you ever understand fifth dimensional spring bending in a witch-based Narnia world, Adam? And have you got reference to the, what did I call them again? Bastronauts that go through the wardrobe? No, you have not. But you know it's real. You know Narnia's there. You could mentally go there with me, couldn't you? Come with me now mentally to Narnia. Like, we could go to space.
I think you should be given a grant to develop these mental journeys further for us all.
I do too. Please smash the super chat. I am actually
I
super
think he's
duper
being a little hard on her.
on Sabine. She's a fraud. This is an outrage.
She has no other space-time bending. What do you want her to do?
What do I want her to do? Not tell people that there's a non-physical, beyond the mathematical, there is no fourth D space-time to bend, but she's showing me bits of rubber. That's just a con. It's a complete con. Now, it's really easy
Is it
to say that.
working on the rubber?
Really
Is
easy.
it working when she's using the rubber? It's working, right? So, what's so hard about understanding that? She demonstrated it.
Neil, so her demonstrating it on the rubber, has that given you a lot of confidence in what she's actually referring to, that she knows what she's on about? Has your confidence in her authority increased because of that demonstration with rubber?
Well, not just me. 90% of the Western world is confident in what she said.
Dum, 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 dum. Keep ending up doing an hour and a half live stream rather than an hour. I don't know how. Time flies when you're having fun, eh? I only intend those shows to be an hour long. Well, I'm glad you're all deeply concerned about that.
Yeah, it's better for sharing if they're an hour maximum, because if you want to share something with someone and they say 1.5, 2 hours, they'll think, I'm not really going to want to watch that. Just some people, Whether it would be worth clipping out 20 minutes from each show, the best bits, I don't know how much work that would be, but maybe not every day, but
yeah, I do. I think that's us. We've got to just get a bit more concise. We do about half an hour chit chat in the morning, especially if Brian's here. Whereas if we can cut that down to maybe 20 minutes and then cover a video for 40, if we're going to cover one. If we're not going to cover one, we can just chit chat for an hour, and that's fine. But ideally, if we're going to get into a video, we should really get into it within about 20 minutes of starting, because then you've got a good chunk of it to actually do a proper response to. But I'll try and move the show along a little bit more so it does become an hour again, because I think you're right. I think that is a lot more shareable. Very good stuff. But yeah, now we're a bit later in the day than I was anticipating, which is fine, I suppose.
is it Tim Paul Hatman next week again, or do we not know yet?
I would have thought so. He's keen to keep presenting as he's got the stuff to present, so I would imagine so. Yeah. I don't know how the days fall with New Year and stuff.
Well, Tuesday and Wednesday aren't holidays, are they? So it's just the Monday, I think.
Like this Christmas period where everyone's disappeared during those periods. All shops close, which is nice. I think people should get time off.
Chemists don't.
Go on, Adam. Sorry.
Chemists don't. I was back yesterday.
Yeah, I'm glad chemists aren't. No offense to you. That's vital, isn't it, really?
Annoying.
Annoying for you as a chemist, but vitally important for those sick people who need their meds.
Selfish, innit?
Bastards.
Don't get ill. Yeah, don't get ill at Christmas. I'm trying to have a day off.
Yeah, indeed. Well, you close Christmas, though, right?
Yeah, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. We've had four nice days.
Yeah, me too. And then I have 3 other days which I just choose to have off because we don't have that much going on. So there's no point having a collection every day for like 2 parcels.
It's quite on the road,
Yeah,
just say.
different. I don't have many patients, but I have to stay up all day just in case, you see. So it's
And like I say, I'm glad.
You just
If I was that
Uber
sick
them or
person,
something. Sorry.
I was just going to say I'm glad that you are there, just in case. I'm quite sure very few people offer their gratitude for you being that just in case that you think is a pain in the arse. But for that one guy that came in, I'm sure he was eternally grateful, even though he just moaned at you and coughed on you.
yeah. But I try and let the girls get away though. So I've been sat there on my own yesterday because it is that quiet. Give the girls an extra day at the pub.
You sent the staff on their way. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, give them an extra day off just because it's that quiet. You can just sit there. You know what I mean? It's
Well, good for you. I might do the same shortly if this conversation doesn't pick up. Send you all home. Go to the pub, lads. Hopefully everyone will be a bit sprightly. There's been a couple of days off. Actually, the enthusiasm level's been quite good, considering there's been a gap of a couple of days without a live show.
You did what? Did you do something? Christmas Day was it? I saw.
Yeah, my wife suggested it.
I was a bit late. If I'd have seen it, I'd have stuck my head in and said Happy Christmas and disappeared, but it had all over and done me before I noticed. So.
Yeah, I only did 50 minutes. It was just like my way of giving back, isn't it? It made my Christmas Day a work day, but it's like my wife was explaining it. She says if you're that guy that subscribes to the show and you just involve them a little bit in your Christmas Day, but completely contrary to what I was expecting my wife to say, especially on Christmas Day. She's like, no, give that back to your community. And take it from me that I view that as my wife saying exactly that to my community. In other words, that's a day that absolutely nobody would object for me not having a show and spending the time with my wife. So when my wife says, I know that this is my time that I can perfectly reasonably take, I'm going to give a bit of it back to your audience by saying, have a show today.
Paul is ace.
More hot micing from Discord.
I tried to understand it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Paul. Anyway, it's
Paul is ace.
Right on. But it was going to be a busy Christmas anyway for us, so I think she probably viewed it. We're going to be running around here, there, and everywhere, and the reason there's fuel in the car, or even the car, is because as a team we managed to keep the lights on in this particular household, and that's on my side of that particular contribution, all down to the people who contribute to the show, the patrons and that. So I like that she recognises that fact, and not just gives me the leeway to kick her out of the lounge daily. But also to say no, I know it's Christmas, and by rights I don't have to do anything, but I want you to do it. She, like I say, she was encouraging me to do it. Very, very alien from my perspective.
Yeah, because God forbid you give back, right?
It's more that I take more than my fair share of this particular household when I do the show. I have to take over an entire room, well, 2 rooms, because the kitchen's part of the, it's behind me, and there's no hallway to it, so you have to go through this room. So therefore, there's a very high limitation on the building. And don't get me wrong, she goes out in summer and all the rest of it, but she has to put up with a lot, is what I'm saying. So for her to say, I'll put up with that again on a very special day that I wouldn't be expected to, it says a lot to my audience about my wife, I feel.
Absolutely.
Because I just love doing this. I would do it every day without question. If I was to get away with it, if I could have done a live stream from the family meal yesterday, for instance, I would, because I like doing this. I like my job. But it would piss everybody off at the table. Obviously.
Yeah, I'm bagging you now, Fundy. No, Grandma, I'm not talking to you.
No, I'm not saying I would run a flat earth debate from the table. I'm just saying I like being a YouTuber. So if I was like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. When you like doing something, you just find yourself doing it. And if it's something that's work related and people know it's work related or what you do for a living, when they see you doing it, it will often make them feel uncomfortable. For example, if you see, I've seen some meme videos on YouTube of people going on first dates, and the person opposite them starts vlogging their first date. And you're like, oh, so cringe. Well, when you put it into that extreme scenario, first date, you can then understand the mentality that, yeah, if it's just a family dinner, they don't want me vlogging my family dinner. You know what I mean? But I would do it because I like doing that. I've always been like that. For a short period when I was a pawnbroker, you can still see these because I haven't been asked to take them off. I think it's on the second channel. Go back about 10 years, and there's these weird out of place clips of random electronics, just three-dimensional panning shots of random electronics. Why? Well, because I was a pawnbroker at the time. Well, why is the videos of them? Well, how I justified it to my boss was, oh, it'll sell them easier on YouTube, on eBay. If you can click on eBay, which you could at the time, and go to a video that's embedded in the YouTube ad, in the eBay ad, that shows you a three-dimensional view of it via a video. So I managed to just wangle me being able to incorporate a bit of videography into pawnbroking. Now, of all the unlikely things you think, how can you ever wangle what is essentially the thing you love doing into a particular job, a retail job where you're haggling over people's, valued possessions and loans and shit? How do you wangle that into videography? Well, I did it somehow, well, because I like doing it. So I ended up filming various items that we were flogging after people didn't, reclaim them after pawning them. But why? Well, because I like doing YouTube, that's why. But that doesn't mean it was conducive with the job. I was far less productive because I was making videos. You know what I mean? But I wanted to do that. Anyway.
Could have been viewed as revolutionary.
That's how I spun it to the boss, I'm sure.
Yeah, funny.
Am I coming in?
Mm-hmm.
All good, Neil.
I seem to.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
What a
That's
laugh.
only when you ask if you're coming in clear that you come in clear. As soon as you actually start talking, you immediately start roboting.
That's
Yep. I'm certain. I mean, don't you agree, guys? Neil makes a good point.
It's because he's moving about. He's outside his signal area, I imagine.
Right. I'm going to do a much better job tomorrow of getting you all genned up for a show. Now we haven't got any excuses, no 2-day gap. But yeah, tomorrow will be on fire rather than just moaning about Neil's roboting. With that, though, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hope you're smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!